Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I, Naruto, signed Kaguya Otsutsuki at the beginning. Chapter 81. In the blink of an eye. It's already getting dark. The news that Senju Yechin successfully rebelled and pulled the 3 generations of Hokage down also spread throughout the ninja world. Time. The entire ninja world collectively lost its voice. Union Village, Lei Yin office. Good guy, really good guy, Yechin is simply stronger than me, and directly rebelled. Awesome. Quote. The 4th generation of Lei Ying. After getting the news of the great change in Konoha, the whole person was stunned. Immediately afterwards, there was a sigh of emotion. 4 generations of adults, what are we going to do now? Do you wait and see, or? With white hair, wheat-colored skin, wearing a professional skirt, and holding a document of sackcloth, he slowly spoke. When the 4th generation of Lei Ying heard this, he frowned and pondered for a moment, and then said, Yechin pulled the ape-flying son off the horse and controlled Konoha himself. With my understanding of that guy, it will definitely not be settled. Speaking of this, the 4th generation of Thunder Shadow showed a smile. If you want to be a Hokage, you can't pull a Hokage to get on the throne. Quote. When Azabui heard this, he immediately understood the meaning of the 4th generation of Thunder Shadow. You mean that there is a possibility that Yechin may make trouble with the great emperor of the Fire Country? Quote. The world is very deformed. It is clear that ninjas have the strength that ordinary people cannot match. But you still have to accept the drive of those powerful people, and even be looked down upon by those powerful people. Just like the Daimyo. Especially the Daimyo of the Fire Nation, since Sarutobi took the throne. The attitude towards the Daimyo of the Fire Nation is like a son meeting his father. And the Daimyo is that daddy. When it came to the time when the Wave Feng Shui Gate was going to be the Hokage, he even had to appoint a Daimyo. It can be imagined that Konoha, who obviously has great strength, is humble to the Daimyo. And now, Yoshin has dismounted Sarutobi and wants to become a Hokage himself, then he must be appointed by the Daimyo. But would the Daimyo appoint a guy who successfully rebelled? Obviously not. There will even be sanctions for the night mourning. Not to mention the Daimyo of the Fire Country, he is very satisfied with the ape-flying sun slashing this dog Hokage. Just the fact that Yechin dares to rebel, the Daimyo cannot tolerate it. Otherwise, as long as someone is not satisfied, he will come out and rebel, then can he still be a Daimyo? And Yechin is the one who will give in. Obviously not. Therefore, the night mourning and the Daimyo of the Fire Nation are bound to make trouble. The conflict between Yoshin and the Daimyo of the Fire Nation will definitely erupt, even. The 4th generation of Lei Ying said this, with a meaningful smile on his face. That guy may do something earth-shattering. Quote. Earth-shattering things. When Azabui heard this, his delicate body was shocked, and his originally calm face showed shock. Lord of the 4th generation, you mean? Haha, who knows? The 4th generation of Lei Ying laughed loudly, and then, stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, looked down at the entire Union Village, and slowly spoke. Let the village prepare. I have a hunch that this storm in Konoha village is just the beginning. A big change in the ninja world is coming. Ha ha ha. Azabui looked at the back of the 4th generation of Thunder Shadow, and didn't know how to describe his current mood for a while. Thousand Hands. Night mourning. Quote. Azabui bowed his head slightly, remembering the name. Water Country, Mist-Hidden Village, inside the Water Shadow office. A graceful woman with long burgundy hair and a mature aura sat in the Water Shadow office, processing a large pile of documents. Oops, Ching, can't you help me deal with these things? I haven't slept for 2 days and 2 nights, don't you know that for a big beauty, lack of sleep is a natural enemy? Quote. Terame, who had not yet officially taken over as the Water Shadow, stood up abruptly and looked very dissatisfied at the man not far away, leisurely drinking tea. Lord Terumi, you are about to take over the name of Water Shadow, and now you are exercising your abilities. A blindfold covered one eye, and Ching said slowly. Alas, I already knew that I would not agree to do this Water Shadow. Terumi sighed and sat down with a tired look. It will be fine, a lot of things are left by the 4th generation, as long as this time is past. Ching looked at Terumi's tired look and comforted. Terumi rubbed her eyebrows, and slowly asked, what's wrong? Have you found the murderer who controls the 4th generation? When Ching heard this, he put down the teacup in his hand, and then replied solemnly, although there is no evidence, it is certain that the black-robed man behind the scene is the black-robed man who controlled the Nine Tails to attack Konoha. Quote. Cut. Aren't you talking nonsense? Back then, the black-robed man also channeled the Three Tails to wreak havoc in Konoha. The original three-tailed human pillar force was a fourth-generation water shadow. Moreover, if it weren't for that guy channeling the Three Tails in Konoha, we wouldn't have suspected that the water shadow of the 5 great ninja villages and the mist-hidden village had been manipulated by people for so many years. Quote. When Xiaomei heard Ching's words, she couldn't help but pout. Speaking up, the reason why Terumi and the others discovered that there was a problem with the 4th generation of water shadows so early was also thanks to Konoha's Senju Yechin. If it weren't for the sudden awakening of Mu done by Thousand Hands Yechin, forcing that black-robed man to summon the Three Tails, Zhao Meiyu and the others couldn't believe that the water shadow of the misty hidden village had already been manipulated by someone. When Qing heard this, he was a little embarrassed, and then, he said seriously, I also found out some news about that black-robed man. Oh, let's hear it. Terumi showed a grateful and interested expression. That black-robed man is definitely from the Uchiha clan. Qing frowned and said, recently, there is an organization called Shao in the ninja world, which is very active in the ninja world, and I got some news that the black-robed man seems to have some relationship with that organization, and even, the black-robed man is a member of that organization. Quote. Shao, organization. When Terumi heard the name of this organization, her brows frowned, and then said, continue to pay attention to this organization, you must find that fool, I want to let that fool know, fool the fate of Mist Hidden Village. Quote. Understood. Qing nodded. At this time, a ninja knocked on the door and walked in, and after saluting Terumi, handed over a document and said, Terumi-sama, the marshal has given you the document at this time. Quote. Got it, you go down. Terumi took the document, waved his hand at the ninja, opened it and looked at it. Nani? Terumi glanced at it a few times, and was immediately shocked by the content of the document. What's wrong, Terumi? Qing, seeing this, quickly asked. Terumi came back to his senses, and immediately, he regained his calm demeanor, sat back in the chair, and a charming smile appeared on his pretty face. It's really interesting, I met my peers. Quote. What do you mean? What peers? Qing, a little confused looking at Terumi. Terumi threw the document to Qing, and then, with her hand supporting her chin, she said, fellow rebels. Quote. Interesting, I heard that the man is still a big handsome man, I don't know if he is willing to enter the debt. Just in the entire ninja world, there was a lot of discussion about Konoha's big movement. Land of Fire, Konoha Village. Route, in a room full of equipment in the base camp of the underground base. In the morning of the night, between the Thousand Hands pillars, between the Thousand Hands, Uchiha Senna, as well as Ju Shinai, Uchiha Fugaku and others, looked at the bottles and jars in this room, silent. I saw this huge room. One by one, the eyeballs such as chakra eyes and white eyes are soaked in liquid in bottles, and visually speaking, there are at least more than 100 of these bottles and jars containing eyeballs. In addition to these eyeballs, there were babies soaked in unknown liquid, and some frozen corpses. Tuan Zhang and Ape Flying Sun Slash, these guys deserve to die. Jusina came to a baby's container, reached out and put her hand on the glass cover, and sensed it. Finding that the baby had lost his breath of life, he immediately said with anger. Is this the village that Big Brother and you founded? It's not much better than our time. In our time, killing people could at least see blood, and now. Quote. Uchiha Senna looked at the scene in front of him, looked at Senjuma with disdain, and sneered. Uchiha Senna, if you talk like this again, I don't mind sending you back to the underworld now. Originally seeing the scene in front of him, Chinsho, who had no reaction, couldn't hold back directly after hearing the mockery of his lifelong enemy. Cut. Uchiha Senna pouted, but didn't say anything more. Now he still relies on that guy to be able to stay in the world temporarily. He also wanted to see the current world, but he didn't want to become muddy again. Yechin was silent and did not speak, and came directly to the frozen corpses, his eyes sweeping over the corpses one by one. And the moment he saw one of them, the corpse of the old man, he couldn't hold back. Nima's Tuanzo, Ape Flying Sun. IRU times. Yechin looked at the corpse of the old man in front of him and cursed. Ju Shinai came over, and when he saw the appearance of the old man, he was also stunned. Grandpa Rasuma, how could this rainy grandfather's body be here? Isn't he all already buried? Ju Shinai's whole person is stupid. The corpse of this old man is none other than Grandpa Yechin, 1,000 hands in the rain. As Yechin's childhood sweetheart, Ju Shinai naturally knows the situation of Yechin. Yi Chen's mother, Yi Chen, died not long after Yi was born. Yi Chen's father, who was a high-ranking member of the Senju clan at that time, was at the end of World War II, and died in the Battle of the Land of Rain. In the end, Yechin has been following his grandfather, 1,000 hands in the rain. Ju Shinai knew Yechin's relationship with his grandfather, and now seeing his grandfather being dug up and doing research, it is strange that Yechin is not angry. However, before waiting for Ju Shinai to continue to comfort Yi Chen, another, extremely angry voice, reached everyone's ears. Ape Fei, Tuan Zhang, I want you not to die well. This is the voice of the second-generation Hokage, Senju. Hearing that the Thousand Hands Gate, who has always been calm, actually made such a big fire, they all rushed towards the place where the Thousand Hands Guard was. When everyone rushed to the location where the Senju Gate was, everyone held their breath and did not dare to make a sound. Because, the first generation of adults, who are usually grinning and like an erha, have a gloomy face at this time, like a volcano about to erupt, standing in front of a crystal coffin, looking at the crystal coffin without blinking. Lie down the man. And between the 1,000 hands, the fists are clenched, and the eyes are on fire. In this kind of Senju, even Uchiha Senna, who has never dealt with him, did not dare to mock, but just stood on the side, looking at the person in the crystal coffin with complicated eyes. Yechin and Ju Shinai came to the edge of the crystal coffin. When they saw the people in the crystal coffin, they were all stunned. Yi Chen also understood why the 1,000 Hands Pillar and the 1,000 Hands Pillar were so angry. Because, the person lying in the coffin is none other than the wife who is between the 1,000 Hand Pillars, the first generation of the Nine-Tailed Man Pillar Force, Uzumaki Mido. Nima, Ape Flying Sun Chopping and Tuanzo are ruthless enough. This is to serve all the ninjas in the entire Konoha village in one pot. Even the First Lady did not let go. But also, these two Crouching Dragon and Phoenix Chicks can even be summoned back to be horse boys, and the first generation lady, how can he put them in his eyes? Phew. Yechin exhaled a long breath, and then, looked at Lu Ju. Lu Ju, you arrange for people from various families to come and claim the remains. Quote. Nara Shikahisa nodded when he heard Yechin's words, and his eyes were also on fire. Because, he also found many people from his Nara clan here. Moreover, most of them are missing people who were reported on the battlefield in those years. After all the remains are claimed, collect the evidence of the guilt of Tuan Zhang, and the Ape Flying Sun beheaded several people, and tomorrow they will be tried under the Hokage building. Yi Chen said this, thought about it, and then said, those members of the Roots, First Control, they are all under the forbidden spell. After they have solved their forbidden curse, they will do some psychological counseling, and then look at the situation after observation. Quote. Understood. Nara Shikaku nodded, and was about to go down to convey Yechin's order, when Uchiha Fugaku hurried in. When he saw the Sharingan in the room, soaked in a bottle of liquid, he was visibly stunned. Immediately, it was restored. When he saw the chakra eye on Shimura Danzo's arm, he had such an expectation. Therefore, seeing this scene now, although I was angry, I did not break out. What's wrong? What did the Ape Flying Sun say? Quote. Yechin saw Uchiha Fugaku coming over and asked with a frown. When he came to the root, Yechin asked Uchiha Fugaku to interrogate Sarutobi Hinata. Now coming over in such a hurry, could it be that something is wrong? Ape Flying Sun is killed. Jiao Hao. Uchiha Fugaku's words made Yechin stay for a moment. Immediately came back to his senses, full of puzzlement, dead. How did he die? Didn't I all seal his chakra? Quote. The death squad is a death squad trained by Tuanzang, and it seems that there has been an order long ago, if they are captured alive, these root dares will come out to assassinate. Uchiha Fugaku replied with an ugly face. He was just thinking about how to entertain the Ape Flying Sun. But before he could see the Ape Flying Sun, the house where the Ape Flying Sun was imprisoned was directly blown away. When Yechin heard this, his eyes narrowed slightly. It seemed that the ape-flying sun had already prepared for them. However, do you think you can escape if you die? Second generation lord, tomorrow I will trouble you to summon the ape-flying sun / and Tuan Zhang from the underworld. After all, this public trial conference could not be done without these two crouching dragon and phoenix chicks. Quote, no problem. And just when Yechen and others visited the underground base of the roots, the villagers of Konoha village also came out of the shelter. However, when they learned that the 3 generations of Hokage-sama had been defeated, when Yechen was about to ascend to the position of Hokage, everyone was stunned. Immediately afterwards, when someone saw that the original Uchiha station had now turned into a canyon, they were even more shocked and speechless. However, what shocked them even more was still to come. When in front of the Hokage building, he posted the information that tomorrow he would publicly try the crimes of the 3 generations of Hokage, Sarutobi Hinata and his henchmen, and dispose of Sarutobi, Shimura and other families. The whole Konoha is boiling. Oh my god. In a blink of time, what happened? Quote, 3. The crimes of the 3rd generation of Hokage-sama. How is this possible? How can 3 generations of adults commit crimes? Quote, that's right. How can a person who is so good as 3 generations of adults be guilty? I see, it's the framing of the rebels. Quote, who are the rebels? Lord Yechen has the existence of Mu Duan, he inherited the will of the First Lord, and Lord Yechen is not a rebel. Quote, that's right, Lord Yechen. The villagers of Konoha village gathered in front of the Hokage building one by one, looking at the notice posted, and talked about it. Kakashi, what's going on here? 3 generations of adults were defeated by Yechen seniors. And to announce the public trial of the crimes of 3 generations of adults. Quote, in the crowd, Matkai pointed to the notice with a shocked face, and turned his head to look at Kakashi, who was silent to the side. Didn't you see that? Kakashi rolled his dead fish eyes and said indifferently. How is this possible? Matkai still doesn't believe it. What happened yesterday night? He went on a mission yesterday, and when he came back today, it will change the sky. Kakashi shrugged, not intending to take care of the goods again, and turned away. The station of the Senju clan. Stinky fart Sasuke, let me tell you, my eldest brother is going to be a Hokage. Hehe, awesome. Quote, little Naruto sat on the swing in the night morning villa, shaking the swing while speaking to Sasuke, who was practicing his shuriken. However, Sasuke ignored Naruto's appearance and continued to practice shuriken. Hey, smelly fart Sasuke, I'm talking to you, didn't you hear? Seeing that Sasuke actually ignored him, Naruto was very upset. Idiot. Sasuke glanced at Naruto, and immediately, spat out the 2 words of mantra. Sasuke, you actually dare to scold me. Look, Uncle Ben won't subdue you today. Quote, Naruto rolled up his sleeves, jumped off the swing, and walked towards Sasuke. Naruto, don't bully Sasuke. At this time, Uchiha Makoto led Hinata over, followed by the 10-year-old Uchiha Itachi. Onisan, Sasuke, who was originally in front of Naruto, had a cold face, and after seeing Uchiha Itachi, he immediately turned into a grinding little fart and ran towards Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha tapped Sasuke's forehead with 2 fingers and said with a smile on his face, did you have fun with Naruto today? Quote, HMPH, I didn't play with him, a little brat, and silly. Sasuke threw his head back and glanced at Naruto with disdain. Smelly fart Sasuke, who do you say is a brat? Naruto glared angrily at Sasuke. Cut. Sasuke didn't take Naruto at all. At this time, Uchiha Makoto grabbed Naruto by the collar and brought it up. Naruto, how many times have you said that you are not allowed to bully Sasuke? Quote, HMPH. And Makoto, I didn't bully him. Naruto struggled to land on the ground and snorted coldly. Makoto Uchiha heard Naruto call her auntie again, and her hair was covered with black lines again. This little fart is not cute at all. And Makoto, who is she? It was then that Naruto noticed Hinata. Immediately, he turned to look at Makoto Uchiha and asked. Her name is Hinata, the little princess of the Hyuga clan, Makoto Uchiha introduced. Hello, my name is Hinata, CBFB please. Please advise. Hinata was watched by several people, and she lowered her head a little shyly, played with the corner of her clothes, and whispered, "You're Hinata." "Who knows?" Naruto jumped directly after hearing Hinata's name. Several people present all looked at Naruto. And at this time, Naruto looked around Hinata, and then, tilting his head, asked Hinata, "Hey, are you the little wife of Brother Yechin?" Quote. When everyone heard this, they all widened their eyes and looked at Naruto in disbelief. And Hinata was stunned when he heard Naruto's words, and then his small face turned red with the naked eye, and his head was about to smoke. Little concubine. Quote. Hinata fainted. Makoto Uchiha wordlessly picked Hinata up. Immediately afterwards, he waited viciously for Naruto. "Naruto, you are good, wait for Jushinai to come back, I see if your ass is still needed." Quote. Boom. Naruto swallowed his saliva, subconsciously covered his little butt, and said with a hard mouth, I'm not afraid, I've grown up, and my eldest sister won't spank me anymore." Quote. Oh, is it? Quote. As soon as Naruto's words fell, a voice that made Naruto creepy entered and exited his ears. Naruto swallowed his saliva again and looked in the direction where the voice came from. Immediately afterwards, the two people he least wanted to see were now holding their hands to their chests, looking at him. Night. Big brother in the night. Still. And the big sister. Naruto stammered when he saw the two. "Naruto, you come for me." Night morning in the courtyard next to the villa. Tsunade threw himself in the arms of the Senju pillar, like a child who had been wrong for a long time, crying. "Shao gang, don't cry, how adults are you, why are you still crying your nose?" Senju-kuma patted Tsunade's back and comforted softly. Tsunade ignored it, just holding the 1,000 hands and crying hard, as if he wanted to cry out all these years of grievances. And the 1,000 hands on the side, but clenched their fists, eager to immediately hide the group. Ape Flying Sun Chop. These two guys summoned a violent beating. Tsunade cried for a long time before stopping. And after seeing that Tsunade finally stopped crying, he talked about what happened to Tsunade over the years. Immediately, Senjuju looked at Tsunade with a serious expression and said, "Shaogang, you are not too young, it is time to start a family." Quote. Tsunade was suddenly urged to marry by her grandfather, and it was a little inexplicable. However, the next sentence between the 1,000 hand pillars made his head full of black lines. I only listened to the 1,000 hands pillar and said seriously, "Shao gang, how come the 1,000 hands clan has not been completed like this? You and the Yechin kid, come on, the future of the family depends on you." Quote. Tsunade. Night is coming again. The land of rain, an underground, dark cave. On the 10 fingers in front of a huge monster stone elephant, figures slowly appeared. And on these 10 fingers, there is a code name displayed on the part. "Boss, why is there a meeting all of a sudden? I'm still catching sacrifices for Lord Evil God." After these figures appeared, a figure with a strange weapon on his back, said with some dissatisfaction. It was indeed a little sudden, and my newly developed art had not yet had time to experiment. The figure standing on the finger of the blue code nodded in agreement. "Chief, if there is anything, let's say it quickly. I am very busy now. There is a single list of 30 million tales, and it has not been solved." The figure standing on the finger of the North codename, looking at the figure standing on the finger of the Zero codename, urged. And these people are none other than members of the Shao organization. The current Shao organization, a squad of 10 people, except for the Zhu character codename, everyone else has arrived. At this time, the members of the Shao organization are Tiandao Pain, Xiaonan, Ju, Red Sand Scorpion, Didera, Feeden, Kakudo, Dried Persimmon Ghost Fish, and Large Snake Pills. Moreover, everyone in the meeting at this time, except for Xiaonan, Pain, and Ju, did not really arrive. Therefore, their figures look very illusory. At this time, Orochimaru let out a hoarse laugh and looked at Pain. "Chief, there is a sudden meeting, so there must be something interesting to announce, right?" Quote. The gaze of the big snake pill phantom looked at Pain, who closed his eyes and raised his mind, and his eyes were a little fiery. Hearing the words of the big snake pill, everyone's eyes fell on Pain. Pain slowly opened his eyes, and suddenly, a pair of eyes with a lilac glow and a circle entered everyone's eyes. Seeing these eyes, Orochimaru licked his lips, not hiding his greed for those eyes in the slightest. Pain glanced at the big snake pill and saw the greed of the big snake pill in his eyes, but did not say anything. Instead, looking at everyone, he slowly spoke, "There are two things to announce today." Quote, "The first thing is that a new person joined the organization today." After Pain finished speaking, he looked at one of the cave entrances and said lightly, "Come in." Quote, when everyone heard this, one by one, they looked at the location of the cave entrance. In the darkness, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared. Sharingan, interesting. Quote, seeing this, the big snake pill immediately recognized the pair of scarlet eyes. Snap. There was a sound of footsteps, and then a young man with a short knife on his back came out of the darkness. Uchiha Stopwater, Konaha, genius of the Uchiha clan, nickname, Instant Stopwater, now codename is Suzaku. Pain's indifferent voice reached everyone's ears. Uchiha's figure flashed, and then, standing on the finger codenamed Suzaku. "Hey, boss, are you mistaken? This guy doesn't look good, huh? Even if you pull people casually, you can also pull a reliable one. This kid looks like the existence of that kind of good treasure." Quote, seeing Uchiha's face that stopped the water, it looked like some people and animals were harmless, like the face of the big brother of the leading family, and Fei Duan was the first to jump out. Everyone else didn't make a sound, all looking at Uchiha to see how he answered. "Hey, Orochimaru, if I'm not mistaken, you also came out of Konoha, right? Do you know this guy?" Deidara asked, looking at Orochimaru. Uchiha stopped the water. Once a genius of the Uchiha clan, it is said that she is good at teleportation and sword art. During the 3 battles, I heard that no one has seen him draw a sword, because before the enemy sees the sword light, he is already dead. Orochimaru stared at Uchiha Shisui. His hoarse and low voice came out of his mouth that seemed unusually deep. "Haha, it doesn't sound like that, Chief. This time the newcomer can't do it. Maybe in a few days there will be a change again." Fei Duan also heard Orochimaru's words, but this made him even more disdainful of Uchiha to stop the water. And everyone else was interested. Pain heard Fei Duan taunting Uchiha to stop the water, and did not open his mouth to reprimand, but closed his eyes, as if he did not hear it. Uchiha stopped the water's pair of 3-hook jade riding wheel eyes, and then looked at the flying segment. Immediately afterwards, the 3 gouged jades spun rapidly, forming a pattern. Kaleidoscope riding wheel eyes, open. And when the gaze of the flying section met the kaleidoscope riding wheel eye of Uchiha to stop the water, Fei Duan, who originally looked arrogant, was stunned in place, and his eyes became empty. A second later, the phantom of the flying section collapsed, supporting his body with his hands, and shouted in pain. And his phantom, as if the signal was not good, became very unstable. Hiss. Everyone except Pain and Xiaonan and Ju gasped. Magic. Uchiha actually used an illusion on the flying segment. And also succeeded. To know, at this time, the flying section is just a phantom, and people don't know how far away it is from here. But Uchiha Shisui can actually use an illusion on the flying segment, and the key is success. How high a level of illusion should this be? You actually dare to sneak up on me, I will kill you. Quote. Fei Duan stared at Uchiha with bloodshot eyes, his eyes full of killing intent. Whatever. Uchiha stopped the water and spit out 2 words coldly, and immediately, he ignored the flying section. It seems that everyone has no doubts about Suzaku's strength. At this time, Pain opened a pair of reincarnation eyes and scanned everyone. His gaze finally fell on Orochimaru and Uchiha Shisui. Orochimaru, you and Uchiha Shisui are all from Konoha, form a team. Quote. No problem. Orochimaru licked his lips and looked at Uchiha to stop the water. Uchiha didn't speak, just nodded in agreement. So, now for the second thing. Pain spoke again. Just got the news that there has been a big change in Konoha, that Senju Night Morning, defeated the 3 generations of Hokage, is about to control Konoha. Quote. When Pain said this, he paused for a moment. I have studied this person in Yechen. His ambition is very big, and he has very strong strength. If he is allowed to continue like this, he will definitely be my strong enemy. So, the plan starts early. Starting today, pay attention to the movement of the human column force. If there is an opportunity, arrests can be carried out. Quote. The next morning, as the sun rose and the sky brightened, the whole Konoha suddenly became lively. One by one, the villagers of Konoha gathered towards the Hokage building. In front of the Hokage building, On an execution platform made of wood, the Sarutobi Hinata, Shimura Danzo, as well as Mito Menyon, Sleeping Kaharu, etc., who were summoned by Senju with filthy soil rebirth, knelt all over the entire execution platform. And on the roof of the Hokage building, in the night morning, between the Senju pillars, between the Senju gates, Uchiha Senna, Tsunade, Kushina and other Konoha high-rises, looking down below. Why did the two people next to Lord Yechen look so familiar? Quote. Heavens. Oh, my God. No, they are not. It's not. How is that possible? They turned out to be the first adult, and the second adult. Quote. That's right, it's indeed the first generation of adults, and the second generation of adults. They are almost exactly the same as the 563 statue on the Fire Shadow Rock. Quote. Oh my God, how are the first and second adults still alive? Isn't it already dead? Quote. HMPH. You don't know that, do you? The reason why we can meet the first generation of adults and the second generation of adults is all because of the ape flying sun, I tell you. When more and more Konoha villagers gathered in front of the Hokage building. Suddenly, some sharp-eyed people saw the people on the roof. Moreover, he also recognized the Senju pillar and the Senjukuma. No way. Behind the Hokage building is Hokage Rock, and everyone is almost as if they were recognizing people in photos, and it is difficult to recognize them. And when everyone recognized that the people on both sides of the night morning were actually the first and second generations, they were shocked one by one. Immediately afterwards, everyone cheered. First Lord, second generation adult. Quote. Phew, unexpectedly, I actually met the first and second generations, excuse me. Am I going to die? Quote. Yaga, this is the two adults of the second generation and the second generation who have returned from the underworld. Ah, the first adult, the second adult. Quote. The crowd was cheering, shouting, and at the same time doubting life. Ah. The villagers of Konoha, they are still so enthusiastic. Thousand Hand Pillar looked at the cheering crowd below and laughed. Senjuma also had a faint smile on his face at this time, looking at everything below. However, when he saw the ape flying sun and others on the execution table below, the corners of his mouth twitched, and he couldn't wait to completely erase these people from this world. Unsullied. This is the stain of his life. This. Is it the village where the eldest brother once said that everyone should live together? Quote. Uchiha Senna looked at the scene below, and her heart throbbed a little. A moment later, though, Uchiha Senna shook his head slightly. The establishment of the village is indeed the end of the chaotic world. Oh no, it should be said, it is just the end of the chaotic and disorderly situation of the warring states. If we say, Sengoku is a war between families, then the current war is no longer a war between families, but war between countries, villages and villages. Quote. Uchiha Senna sighed in his heart, and looked at the seemingly prosperous Konoha in front of him with complicated eyes. In this era, although a country can have order, it also means that once a war breaks out between countries, then there are more people to die than during the warring states period. Quote. Uchiha Senna sees very thoroughly, and this era seems to be much better than the warring states period. Every country has order, but, in this way, every country clashes, forming after war. The pain brought by it is also more cruel than in the warring states time. After all, this is a war between countries, and the dead people, that is also calculated in countries. No wonder, after establishing this with the Thousand Hand Pillar, the eldest brother left this village, perhaps. He saw that too, right? So, is there any point in establishing such an order? The war is still not over, peace. Nor did it come. Quote. Uchiha Senna shook his head, and after a moment, he looked at Yechen, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Maybe this kid can bring a big change to this ninja world. Quote. Yorichin's ambitions, as well as the unified theory he had said, Uchiha Senna had already heard about it from Uchiha Fugaku. This kid's strength and courage are no worse than his eldest brother. He is even crazier than his eldest brother. Moreover, looking at his strength, it is simply a combination of the Thousand Hand Pillar and his eldest brother. Moreover, Uchiha Senna knew that this was not Yechen's peak strength. With this guy in charge of Konoha, then, this ninja world is destined to set off terrifying waves. All the villagers of Konoha, be quiet. At this time, the public trial meeting began. I saw Nara Shikaku standing on the execution table, looking at the dense crowd in front of him, and pressed his hand. Moment. Everyone closed their mouths and looked at Nara Shikahisa. You must know these people, right? Yes, they are the former three-generation Hokage Abe Hibiki, the former elder Danshi village Danzo, and Mito Manyan, who turned to sleep Kaharu. And the other people are also members of their family. Quote. Some people may be curious, why did this public trial meeting be held today, and why did the first three generations of Hokage and the others be publicly tried? Now, and I tell you, because they are guilty, and they are heinous sins. Quote. Nara Shikaku looked at everyone and said in a serious tone. And after Nara Shikaku finished speaking, he had already heard some news, and everyone who had originally been quiet exploded in an instant. How is this possible? The three generations of adults are very good, what is his crime? Quote. Yes, did I make a mistake? Some time ago, I saw three generations of adults personally visiting the elderly who lived alone. Quote. I also saw that three generations of adults sent people to the orphanage a month ago. Quote. Did I make a mistake? How can three generations of adults be guilty? Quote. Yes, three generations of adults can't be guilty. In the crowd, there were a lot of doubts. In the face of these doubts, Nara Shikahisa seemed to have expected it, and he took a document and pressed his hand again. Moment. The crowd quieted down again. I know that many people don't believe that Ape Flying Sun is guilty, so I'll let Ape Flying Sun cut himself to tell everyone what kind of crime he has committed. Quote. Nara Shikaku's words immediately made everyone stunned. Let the three generations of Hokage personally say the sins he has committed. How is this possible? Could it be that the three generations of Hokage were beaten into a trick? Everyone's eyes were on the Ape Flying Sun chopping on the execution table. Hey, don't say, really let them discover the abnormality of the Ape Flying Sun. Nima, people are cracked. The villagers of Konoha naturally did not know that the reason why the Ape Flying Sun / was cracked was because he was summoned by the rebirth of the dirt and was not a living person at all. So, now there are pleas. The previous Hokage, Sarutobi personally told me about his crimes. Quote. Hear the words of Nara Shikahisa. Everyone's eyes were all looking at the Ape Flying Sun / in unison. At this time, the Ape Flying Sun chopped, really ashamed to find a seam to drill into. However, at this time, he was summoned back by the rebirth of the soil, and his own body was completely controlled by the thousand hands. Even if he didn't want to, he could only involuntarily do what Nara Shikaku said. I'm guilty. When everyone's eyes fell on him, Ape Fei Richo's eyes are full of reluctance, but his mouth is very honest, and he opens his mouth to, I am guilty. Those brain-dead fans of the Ape Flying Sun chopping, hearing the words of the Ape Flying Sun chop, blinked their eyes one by one, and looked at the Ape Flying Sun chop in shock. Three generations of adults, you. What did you say? Quote. God, 3 generations of adults, are you threatened? Blink if yes. Quote. It's impossible. The 3 generations are definitely controlled. Yes, it's illusion, it must be illusion. Illusion fart, I am a perception ninja, although the 3rd generation looks a little wrong, but I think I can guarantee that there is absolutely no illusion, because his chakra is not chaotic. It's impossible, it's not the 3 generations of illusion, that is, we have been illusory. Anyway, I don't believe that 3 generations of adults are guilty. Quote. That's right, how can a person who is so good for 3 generations be guilty? Impossible. Quote. Sarutobi said 3 words, and the villagers of Konoha exploded again. However, the Ape Flying Sun chop controlled by the 1,000 hands can't manage so much, even if he doesn't want to, he can't help but continue to speak. Moreover, Nara Shikaku was also afraid that the sound of the Ape Flying Sun chop was too small, and he was worried that the people behind him would not hear it, so he took a megaphone very intimately and put it in front of the Ape Flying Sun chop. Sarutobi Hinata looked at the megaphone in front of him, his gaze full of resentment, and glanced at Nara Shikahisa. Nima's 2 or 5 boys, should they be so intimate? However, Nara Shikaku faced the small eyes of the Ape Flying Sun, smiled disapprovingly, and nodded at him. Tiger Fall Pyongyang was bullied by dogs. Ape Fei Ri sighed in his heart, and continued in his mouth, I. Sarutobi Hinata, during World War I, was ordered to be appointed by the second generation to the third generation Hokage. However, because I was on the verge of being ordered, when I first took office, my position was very unstable. In order to stabilize my Hokage position, I began to secretly suppress as the two major families that founded Konoha, the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan. And as 1,000 hands who have been born to Hokage, it has become a stumbling block to my stable position. At the same time, I am very eager for the wooden blood succession boundary between the original Hokage 1,000 hands pillar, so no matter which direction I look at, the 1,000 hands clan must disappear into the long river of history. However, I, as Hokage, cannot do these things. Therefore, in order to be able to do some shady things in the future, I let Danzo, who has a very strong desire for power, create the route. Antoine Zhang did not disappoint me, and with my acquiescence and guidance, he began to attack the 1,000 hands clan in order to study Mu Dun. In addition, I intended to let the 1,000 hands clan exterminate the clan, and during the war, all the dangerous tasks were assigned to the 1,000 hands clan. This is one of my crimes, to destroy 1,000 hands. Quote. The sound of ape flying sun chopping spread throughout Konoha. Everyone, hearing the words of the ape flying sun, their eyes widened one by one, and their faces were full of disbelief. Those who had just shouted that the ape flying sun was not guilty also closed their mouths at this time. Because, the crime mentioned by ape flying sun chopper does not need evidence at all. Didn't I see the current 1,000 hands clan, and there was only one male Ding left in the Yan family? If it weren't for the night and morning being born, I'm afraid the 1,000 hands clan would really be gone. And a family that was once in the warring states period, so large, why did it collapse silently? If there is no secret action from the top, they will not believe it. Therefore, for the destruction of the 1,000 hands clan, as long as people with brains can see that what ape flying sun chopper said is true. Shimura Danzo on the execution platform was also confused at the moment when he heard the words of the ape flying sun. Because, from what the ape flying sun chopped said, it is not difficult to hear. He Shimura Tuanzo, from beginning to end, is just a backpot man supported by the ape flying sun, and a black glove. Nima, ape flying sun chopping is really not a good thing. Danzo originally just hated that ape flying sun had snatched his Hokage position, and he was very dissatisfied. Now he completely hates this hypocritical guy. However, this is only the first sin of ape flying sun. Ignoring everyone's shocked looks, ape flying sun / was controlled, and continued to speak. In order to study the Mu Dun blood succession limit, I acquiesced to Tuan Zhang's secret capture of the clansmen of the 1,000 hands clan, as well as digging the grave between the 1,000 hand pillars, and used his body as research materials. Wow, when everyone heard this, they were all in an uproar again, and then, one by one, they looked at the 1,000 hand pillars on the Hokage building, with a strange expression. Nima, the corpse has been chopped up, why are you still there? This is what is now in everyone's mind. Hokage on the building. Yi Chen and the others also all looked at the 1,000 hand pillar. The 1,000 hand pillar was watched by so many people, scratching his head a little embarrassed, and then, stepping forward, looked at everyone in Konoha village. First adult, the megaphone is for you. The 1,000 hand pillar had just spoken, and in the morning on the side, he handed over a megaphone very understandingly. Senjukuma, I thank you. 1,000 hand pillar glared at Yechen, did not take it, gritted teeth and said, I don't need this, I use chakra to spread, I can let everyone hear my voice. The first adult is awesome. When Yechen heard this, he smiled and gave a thumbs up to the 1,000 hand pillars. 5,000 taels, if it is one or two less, I will not finish with you, 1,000 hand pillar said hatefully. If Yechen hadn't agreed to give him 5,000 taels and go to the casino for a dashing day, he wouldn't have come forward. No problem, Yechen nodded and agreed happily. Phew, Senjukuma exhaled and faced everyone in Konoha village again. Ahem, hello everyone, I am the original Hokage Senjukuma, I can prove that the ape flying sun chop is indeed chopped. Oh no, it was stealing my body. After everyone heard the words between the 1,000 hand pillars, they did not immediately point at the ape flying sun, but felt one by one. Kind of weird. A dead man, to prove that others listened to his own corpse. The villagers of Konoha village feel that they can't keep up with the times at this time. Is it now popular to find dead people to testify? The villagers of Konoha village were silent for a while. The villagers of Konoha village were silent. But the ape flying sun slash did not stop. And when Sarutobi said the next words, the whole Konoha boiled. Just when everyone was witnessing themselves between the 1,000-hand pillars, the body was stolen and fell into a daze. The sound of the ape flying into everyone's ears again. In order to study Mu-dun, I acquiesced to my disciple, the Great Snake Pill, and Tuanzang were in the same stream. However, the cells of the original Hokage were too strong. Even if the 1,000 Hands clan was almost destroyed, they could not study Mu-dun perfectly. At this time, the 1,000 Hands clan was left with only one person in the night. It was a waste at night, and Tsunade was watching outside, so I could only hint that Danzo was looking for another subject. During the war, I would secretly send some prisoners to Tuanzang. If the war subsides and there is no way, I will hint that Tuanzang can capture some children in the village and continue to study as experimental subjects. At the same time, it is also to calculate the Big Snake Pill, because, as my disciple, the Big Snake Pill showed its very excellent command talent in World War II and World War III. At the same time, he is also a forbidden genius who is not inferior to the second generation, and he has the strength to become a Hokage, and he also has the prestige to become a Hokage. However, Orochimaru has his own thoughts, and he cannot be controlled by me, so I calculated that he could not stay in Konoha. At the same time, it is also an explanation to the families of those missing children. This is my second crime, murdering the people of the village. Quote. After Ape Flying Sun Chopper's words, the scene was silent. Everyone looked at the ape flying in disbelief. What did they hear? Those children who were identified as being caught by the Big Snake Pill to do human experiments were actually tacitly arranged by their 3 generations of adults. Even, the Big Snake Pill is also a victim, just helping the ape flying sun to cut the pot. Everyone was shocked when they heard the reason behind the disappearance. And when these Konoha villagers came back to their senses, they all broke out one by one. Especially the families of those missing children back then cursed. Originally, it turned out to be you. It turned out that my child's disappearance was you made a ghost, you. You don't deserve to be a Hokage. Quote. Ah, woohoo. Child, my child, woo, it turns out that the person who harmed you is this guy with a beast face, and I have treated him as a good person for so many years, it turns out that he is the enemy. Quote. Why do we in Konoha have such a Hokage? In the past, he also laughed at the cruelty of the water shadow in the Wuin village, but now it seems that he is not willing to let the ape fly to the sun. Quote. Go to die, the ape flies to the sun, return my child's life, die. Kill him, kill this human-faced beastly guy, kill him. Many villagers in Konoha village were all angry. Even some of the victims' families gritted their teeth one by one, wanting to rush up and fight with the ape flying sun. However, these angry villagers were stopped by ninjas one by one. It's over. Ape Fei-ri looked at the angry villagers in front of him, and secretly said in his heart. He knows. From this moment on, his ape flying sun slashing name will be completely beaten on the pillar of shame, and it will not be washed away. Quiet. Naraluju saw that the situation was a little out of control, and quickly spoke up. However, the angry villagers, as if they hadn't heard Nara Shikahisa's words, still rushed towards the ape flying sun one by one. Stop it all. A voice, like a thunderclap, sounded in everyone's mind. Forthwith, the voice of the night morning reached everyone's ears. I know you're so angry that you can't wait to skin and cramp. Everyone's eyes were on the night morning on the Hokage building. Yi Chen looked at everyone below expressionlessly, and said indifferently, guys, the crime of ape flying sun chopping has not been announced. I promise you, when his crime is announced, I will meet your requirements, and ape flying sun chopping will be at your disposal. Quote. After everyone listened to Yi Chen's words, they were all stunned for a moment, and then all the Konoha villagers cheered. Oh, hooray! Long live Lord Yechen! Quote. Hooray! Yechen stood on top of the Hokage building, looking at the cheering crowd below, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. His purpose, achieved. Next, Ape Flying Sun Chopper told one after another about the crimes he had committed over the years. These crimes, large and small, made everyone stunned to hear them. These crimes, such as the suicide of Konoha Whitefang, the extermination of the Uzumaki clan, etc. Small ones such as using the art of binoculars, peeping women in the bath, planning to use beautiful men, calculating hands, etc. Hearing that everyone completely refreshed the three views, they felt that this ape flying sun chop should be renamed Ape Flying 3000 Hard Eyes. Nima, this guy is so bad that he is bubbling. These incidents, although nothing happened to him on the surface. But if you think about it, there is his shadow everywhere. No wonder Konoha is inferior to a generation. With the Hokage, Konoha can be strong as the ghost. In other words, Sarutobi Hinata played Konoha like this. Are you sure it's not an undercover agent sent by other ninja villages? Sure enough, those who play ZG, their hearts are black, and Ape Flying Sun Chopper is a representative character. In fact, not to mention those ordinary villagers, as well as ninjas, after listening to the words of Sarutobi Sunchop, their hearts were full of shock. Even was called the darkest Danzo in Konoha, after listening to the words of Sarutobi Hinata. He was also shocked, even so shocked that he cursed himself. Lie down, I said, I'm the material for Hokage, the second generation is just blind. Ape Flying Sun slashes this guy, obviously the best person to be the dark of Konoha. Quote, in the darkness of Konoha, Shimura Danzo said that he should have been in the light. Ape Flying Sun slash is that Konoha dark. And the scene, except for those angry villagers. There is also a person who can't wait to directly cut the soul of the Ape Flying Sun, and beat it to pieces. That person is Tsunade. She had just heard it clearly. The Kato break that was close to her back then was really the calculation of Sarutobi Hinata. Moreover, if it weren't for the night morning, she would really have almost fallen for the calculation of the Ape Flying Sun. Thinking of what happened back then, Tsunade looked at Yechin angrily, yes, and at the same time full of shame. Back then, Yechin took great pains to let her see through Kato's true face. In the end, it was even more because she stupidly questioned the Ape Flying Sun, which led to Yechin almost being killed. This matter has always been a thorn in the bar for her. However, Kato's decision, although she already believed Yechin's words, also knew that what Yechin said was true. But because there has been no evidence, although she feels guilty about Yechin. But there is also a bit of luck in my heart, hoping that none of that is true. But now the Ape Flying Sun Chop has personally admitted it. Her luck was gone. At this time, Tsunade felt more guilty about Yechin in his heart, and his hatred for Ape Flying Sun was also deeper. And the Ape Flying Sun Chop was already numb at this time. He looked at the excited crowd, and he knew that this time he was really going to pass it down through the ages. He was completely nailed to the pillar of shame. The public trial is over. When Sarutobi finished telling his crime, Shimura Danzo and the others, under the control of Senjuma and others, perfectly completed the public trial meeting. And the most beautiful boy in the entire public trial assembly is undoubtedly the Ape Flying Sun. Even Shimura Danzo can't compare. It is precisely because the Ape Flying Sun chopping is too beautiful. He became the object of jealousy for everyone in Konoha, and one by one, the villagers, as well as the ninjas, gave their gifts, rotten eggs, Yoneda Koku, etc. to Sarutobi Hinata. Sarutobi is very happy, the heart that wants to die. He said he still wanted such a gift. Therefore, Yechin waved his big hand, slashed the Ape Flying Sun and Shimura Danzo, tied them to the Wanda Square, and let everyone in Konoha village look at them for 7 days. And, everyone is allowed, and they can say something, heart-wrenching, to the two of them. Anyway, the Ape Flying Sun Chopper and Tuan Zhang are both summoned by the rebirth of the soil, and they have an immortal body, so let everyone admire them, these two Wolong Phoenix chicks of Konoha. As for why 7 days? Well, Yechin wanted to see if these two crouching dragon phoenix chicks would learn Jesus after 7 days of crucifixion. Maybe in the future, there will be something called Gemini frame in the ninja world. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. In the past 7 days, Wanda Plaza has been very lively, and it is crowded almost every day. That scene seemed to be Yechin's previous life. Zhang Geshin held a concert. And in these 7 days, Ape Flying Sun Chopper and Shimura Danzo can be described as having experienced what it means to live better than die. Every day they were comfortably served by thousands of people. What dung, rotten eggs, the day after they came to the Great Plaza, these Konoha villagers no longer used. And on the 4th day, what sword burned, these villagers also did not use. After all, they are now in a state of rebirth in the soil, even if their bodies are broken. They also don't hurt and recover on their own. So, compared to being poured with feces, etc., disgusting punishment, they would rather be beaten and burned. However, when the 5th day begins, Sarutobi Hinata and Shimura Danzo are tragic. I don't know which guy who lacked virtue and smoked, came up with a bad idea. CBDB did not use physical attacks, and began to play mental damage. At first, people were more restrained, really letting them wear women's clothes, at most in bikinis. However, when everyone saw two old things wearing bikinis with some spicy eyes, they played new tricks, such as driving all the women away. A group of men got together and practiced castration techniques. Anyway, if it is cut, it can still be copied, and those villagers who plan to engage in breeding have now found a training object. In front of a group of people around, he was looked at as the second eldest and constantly fiddled with. Sarutobi Hinata and Shimura Danzo collapsed. This is a collapse from the depths of the soul. Moreover, what kind of punishment is this called palace punishment? It is really an appetizer. When 7 days have passed, the ape flew into the sun, and Shimura Danzo's eyes were empty, as if he had lost his soul. And in these 7 days, the night and morning were also very busy. Since he had just taken over Konoha, Konoha had undergone another great purge, as well as Uchiha, Hinata and others who wanted to pacify the Dragon Gongshin family. Yechin has been sleeping in almost all of Hokage's office these days. However, fortunately, there was a second-generation Mekijuma and Shikaku on the side to help, otherwise Yechin would really be directly exhausted by the documents on Hokage's desk. As for why the original Hokage and the 5th-generation Hokage Tsunade in the original book, why didn't they help? Hehe, these two ancestors and grandchildren seem to have found the feeling they once felt these days. I didn't go back day by day, almost soaked in Chinatown. Well, yes, it's Chinatown, and the reason why they will soak in Chinatown is because Yechin built an entertainment city there. This entertainment city was built in the same way as the gambling hall of the previous life casino. There are not only board games that he moved over in the morning, but also many fruit machines and slot machines that he let people develop. As soon as this entertainment city opened, it was almost full every day. No way, there were too many tricks in those gambling cities in the past life. Almost no one in this world has ever seen these games. Therefore, when the ancestors of the gambling ghosts of Senjujuma and Tsunade came to this entertainment city, it's like coming to heaven, soaking there every day, and never even going out of the casino gate. Of course, with the gambling luck of the two ancestors and grandchildren, it is natural that they will lose their family and property in less than a day, and they will also owe a lot of debts to Yechin. Especially between the 1,000 hand pillars, when he got 5,000 taels from Yi Chen, he directly sent it back to Yi Chen in less than half a day. In the end, 1,000 hand pillar played with the fruit machine, almost treating his granddaughter as Yi Chen. Finally a little more relaxed. Inside the Hokage office, Yorudo stretched out and stood up, just about to relax, when Shikaku walked in with a stack of papers. No, how is it? Yechin is very annoyed now, seeing Nara Shikahisa, and even a little afraid of Nara Shikahisa's appearance. Because, every time he sees Nara Shikahisa, it means that there are a lot of things that need to be dealt with by him. Don't worry, these are just the intelligence collected by Konoha, you can just take a look at it when you have time. Nara Shikaku looked at Yechin, the newly promoted god of the ninja world, and now he actually saw him showing this expression, and his serious face couldn't help but smile. Phew, when Yechin heard this, he let out a long sigh of relief. However, Nara Shikaku took out a document and handed it to Yechin at the same time, and at the same time solemnly spoke. There is news from the Dark Department. 3 days ago, the Daimyo has sent people to Konoha, and according to the Dark Ministry's estimate, the people from the Daimyo will arrive in Konoha tomorrow. Quote, Daimyo. When Yi Chen heard this, his eyes suddenly narrowed slightly, and his eyes flashed with light. Seeing this, Nara Luju knew that this new boss was probably holding back some bad water, and he quickly spoke up. Yechin, although we now control Konoha, but you want to be the 5th generation of Hokage, and you also need the appointment of the Daimyo. If the envoy of the Daimyo comes, you can't be impulsive. Quote, it's obvious. Nara Shikahisa also knew that at this time, the people from the Daimyo were not good. When Yechin heard this, he tilted his head slightly and looked at Nara Shikahisa. So, I still have to please the daimyo to be this Hokage. Quote. According to what you say, I want to be this Hokage and please the daimyo. Yechin listened to Nara Shikahisa's tone, and couldn't help but ask a little angrily in his heart. Nara Shikaku heard this, nodded and said seriously, yes, only if the daimyo is appointed, you can justifiably become a Hokage. Quote. Then won't I be able to kneel as this Hokage? The night morning is even more angry. Nara Shikaku thought for a moment and nodded again, so. That's right, you want to be this Hokage, and really ask for a daimyo. Quote. Syllable, I'll go to him and. When Yechin heard this, he slapped the Hokage desk and was furious. Labor and management, hard work, and planning, and patience, and finally the station of the Uchiha family has been turned into a tourist attraction, and finally you let me kneel as this Hokage, then my grievances over the years, not in vain. The night morning is really hot. Think about how he has lived these years. In order to accumulate strength, Ape Flying Sun chopping these grandsons secretly did not know how many small actions he made, and he could only endure as much as possible. In the end, the residence of the Uchiha family was turned into a tourist attraction. Yes, it's a tourist attraction. Because, that canyon was ordered in the morning, without repair, it should be the starting place of Konoha's reform. Moreover, Yechin also named that place, Nirvana Valley. The meaning is that Konoha starts here and is reborn like a phoenix Nirvana. However, he did not expect that he wanted to be this Hokage, and actually wanted him to kneel and add a daimyo. This makes Yechin endure. It's not a grievance, is it? Nara Shikahisa heard Yechin's words, and said a little puzzled. The daimyo is the lord of the entire country of fire. Konoha exists to protect the country of fire. We are respectful to the daimyo, that's right. Quote. I'll go. Yechin was completely speechless when he heard Nara Shikahisa's words. At the same time, he also lamented the Hokage, which is worthy of being a manga created by the Foot Basin Chicken Man. As for why he specifically mentioned the Foot Basin Chicken, it was because he thought of the king of the Foot Basin Chicken in World War II in his previous life. Now the people of this world, like the kings of the Footpot Chickens, feel that it is natural to treat the daimyo with respect. Even if their strength is far stronger than that shit daimyo. Even if that daimyo will only enjoy, regardless of the life and death of the people. Even if the daimyo treats everyone as a dog, the people here have no complaints. In short, this world is very deformed. Even in the original work, the entire ninja world is almost gone. The daimyo of each country is also enjoyed as it should be, and it has no influence at all. For this kind of thought that does not know whether to say foolishness or stupidity. Yechin didn't dare to agree at all. Although he has now crossed into this world, in terms of bloodline, he is no longer a Chinese person. But his soul is still a Chinese soul. He inherited the thinking of the Chinese ancestors, believed that people would conquer the sky, and even more believed in the princes and generals. A garbage thing that can no longer be garbage, dare to shout in front of him. Night is not used to it. Nara Shikaku looked at Yechin, who was full of disbelief, and could only gently persuade, Yechin. You may not know that half of Konoha's finances are supported by the daimyofu if we hate the daimyofu. So, the amount of tasks in Konoha is directly reduced by 90%. Moreover, if war breaks out, without the financial support of the daimyo government, we in Konoha will not be able to consume it at all. Moreover, with the support of the daimyofu, you are justified as this Hokage. Quote. Phew. Yechin took a deep breath and squinted at Nara Shikaku. So, if I want to be this Hokage, I can only rely on this daimyofu, otherwise I can't be a daimyo. Quote. Yes. Nara Shikahisa nodded. So, if the daimyo doesn't support Konoha, Konoha won't be able to live. Yechin asked again. That's right. Nara Shikahisa nodded again. Yechin took a deep breath again, and then, looking at Nara Shikahisa, he pointed to his eyes. I have this, can I get the daimyofu to give the money to Konoha? Quote. Yi Chen said, a pair of dark eyes turned into kaleidoscopic riding wheel eyes. Nara Shikaku looked at the kaleidoscope of chakra eyes in the night morning, pondered for a few seconds, and then nodded, maybe. Quote. Good. Yechin clapped his palm, and immediately, his hand spread, and then a small sapling grew on his palm, so. With this, can I become this Hokage while allowing the Daimyo to continue to divide the money to Konoha? Quote. Nara Shikaku looked at the sapling in Yechen's hand, and then at his kaleidoscope chakra eyes, and then shook his head, no. Quote. When Yechen heard this, he was immediately shocked. With Mu Duan, plus the kaleidoscope writing wheel, I can't get the Daimyo. Could it be that the Daimyo has a super shadow level master? Nara Luju seemed to see Yechen's shock, and seriously spoke. Yechen, don't misunderstand, the Daimyo really does not have a more powerful master than you. Even, in the entire ninja world, I am afraid that there are few people who can compete with you. Quote. When Yi Chen heard this, he frowned, then why not? Quote. Because that's a daimyo house, Nara Shikaku replied helplessly. When Yechen heard this, he looked at him again with faint eyes. Syllable. Yechen slapped the table again, and then shouted loudly, hey, I don't believe him Huang Shiro. Oh no. His daimyo mansion can single-handedly cover the sky in the land of fire. Let labor and management be kneeling fire shadows, labor and management are better than salted fish. Unexpectedly, his famous mansion did not want to give it, so the labor and management went to rob him, and this anger of labor and management was not accepted. Quote. Yechen is very annoyed. What kind of shit name is this, and really treat him as a green onion. Labor and management are not apes flying to the sun. Tomorrow what kind of famous messenger will come, and it is just polite to labor and management. If he dares to be unreasonable with labor and management, then he can only be more physical. When Nara Shikaku heard Yechen's words, he was first startled, and then relieved. He also listened to the story of the first emperor told by Yi Chen. At the same time, he also knew the unified theory of the night and the morning, and his ambitions. However, it was precisely because he knew Yechen's ambition that Nara Shikaku worked harder to persuade Yechen. Yechen, don't really underestimate the daimyo mansion. Not others, the army of the daimyo alone exceeded 200,000. Not to mention, the daimyo also has a lot of masters. We have just taken over Konaha, and the other 4 shinobi villages are eyeing us, and if we fall out with the daimyo now, it will be very bad for us. Quote. For Nara Shikahisa's persuasion, Yechen was not in the mood to listen at the moment. After Nara Shikaku finished speaking, Yechen stared at Nara Shikaku and said, if it is not good for us, then I will fight until he is profitable. HMPH, the ancestor said that the truth is always within the attack range of power. 200,000 troops, hee, such a powerful armed force, I don't know if it will not be enough for me to kill. Quote. Well, that's right. Yi Chen's words. Just after speaking, a voice came in. Immediately afterwards, Senjukuma took the lead, followed by Shunju pulling his head, followed by Senjukuma and Tsunade behind Senjukuma. Yechen and Nara Shikaku turned their heads to look at the 3 of Senju. When they saw the expressions of Senjukuma and Tsunade, both of them were stunned. I don't understand what happened to these ancestors and grandchildren. Second grandfather, grandpa and Tsunade. What's wrong? Yechen looked at Senjukuma and Tsunade, and then, looked at Senjukuma. HMPH. Senju snorted coldly, glanced at Senjujuma and Tsunade very dissatisfied, and then said, these 2 guys, simply lost the face of my Senju clan, this time soaked in your entertainment city all day, owed so many debts not, 067, said. Today is even more excessive, actually ate a bully meal in Chinatown, not to order the most expensive Maotai wine. After getting drunk and crazy in people's houses, the whole street was made black by them, or those shopkeepers couldn't stand it, came to the house to report that I went over to bring these 2 guys back. Quote. Yechen looked speechlessly at Senjukuma and Tsunade. Finally, his gaze fell on the body of the 1,000-hand pillars, and he was sure. The reason why Tsunade became a fat sheep in the ninja world is definitely 99% of the credit between the 1,000-hand pillars. In the past few days, the money owed by the 2 in the entertainment city alone is no less than 200 million taels. That is, Senjuzuma and Tsunade, otherwise, where would the entertainment city owe them so much money? You know, the entertainment city is an industry built by the night. As a person in the afterlife, how could he not know the dangers of gambling? Therefore, at the beginning of the opening of the entertainment city, the night mourning was stipulated. All villagers in Konoha village are not allowed to enter the entertainment city in debt. It will not open up loan services to the villages in Konoha village. Yechen's gaze looked at Tsunade again. Every time he looked at Tsunade, at first glance, his eyes couldn't help but look at her high and uplifting peaks. What a terrible seduction technique. What to see? Tsunade noticed Yorichin's gaze and glared viciously at Yorichin. In the past few days, although Yechen has been very busy, he occasionally has time to chat with Tsunade. So, Tsunade felt a little less guilty about Yechen. Hey, you still owe me money. How many times do I see what happened to you? Seeing this creditor so arrogant in the morning of the night, I was immediately happy. Owe you money? When did I owe you money? I didn't, I was wronged, not me. Don't talk nonsense. Quote. Good guy. Tsunade came directly to a 4 in a row no. Ha, it's the uncle who owes the money, right? Still want to pay the bills. Seeing that Tsunade owed money and was so arrogant in the morning, he was suddenly unhappy. Who is he? Shin, the god of the ninja world. Konoha's incoming 5th generation Hokage. Feel that he owes him money and does not pay it back, but he has not yet been born. Bad account. What is not paid? You go to see whose name is on the loan contract. Tsunade tilted his head and said with a smile on his face. Loan contract. When Yechen heard this, he was immediately stunned, and then he had a bad premonition in his heart. However, Tsunade on the opposite side, without waiting for Yechen to come back to her senses, she shouted out the door, Shizune, what are you hiding outside for? Quick, you take the loan contract and show it to our night and morning adults. Quote. Come on, here it comes, Tsunade-sama. Quote. Outside the door, a girl with short hair, about 17 or 8 years old, walked in with a briefcase. Yi Chen's gaze fell on this girl. The girl suddenly lowered her head in a hurry, not daring to look at Yi Chen. Harm, why are you swallowing slowly? Tsunade stepped forward and took the briefcase directly from Shizune's hand, and immediately looked in the briefcase for a moment. Immediately afterwards, Tsunade held several documents in his hand and handed them to Yechen. Yechen took the document and opened it. Well, this is a loan contract for the casino, that's right. But it was between the 1,000 hand pillars that signed Mao. I, Nima, am a dead man among the 1,000 hand pillars. Borrow money between the 1,000 hand pillars, will he go to the underworld to collect the bills at that time? Yi Chen's face suddenly darkened, and he couldn't wait to immediately pull the manager in the entertainment city over and beat him violently. Ha ha, looking at Yechen with a black face, Tsunade laughed, and then, patting the shoulder between the 1,000 hand pillars, said to Yechen, Xiao Chenchen, the person on the loan contract is my grandfather, so if you want to pay, go to my grandfather. Senjuju scratched his head, and said with a kind smile on his face, that. Ha ha, Xiao Yechen, you see that I am already dead, or after I go back to the underworld another day, you burn more paper money for me, and when you arrive in the underworld one day, I will return it to you. Quote. When Yechen heard this, his face darkened. Nima, this is cursing him to die, right? Between the 1,000 hands on the side, Nara Shikaku and the two looked at the dark night morning, and their faces showed smiles. Phew, Yechen exhaled deeply, and then, his eyes narrowed slightly, looking at Tsunade, who was smug and laughing. What are you doing? Tsunade noticed Yorichin's gaze and immediately narrowed his smile and looked at him warily. Ha, Yechen suddenly smiled at this time, and then, touching his chin, slowly said, Tsunade, I don't know if you have heard, father debt son repayment. Quote. Tsunade's alarm bell rang loudly in his palm. However, before she could speak, Yi Chen continued, Grandpa is unable to repay the loan, so. After he goes to the underworld, this debt must have fallen on his only bloodline, that is. Tsunade, congratulations, you inherited your grandfather's assets of hundreds of millions, but it is negative. When Tsunade heard this, the whole person was stunned. Immediately afterwards, his head shook like a rattle. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Quote. Tsunade said, looking at the 1,000 hands pillar. Grandpa, from today onwards, we will sever the relationship between ancestors and grandchildren, and you are not my grandfather. Quote. 1,000 hand pillars. Yechen smiled, and then said, Tsunade, it's too late to say anything now, you have to pay back this money. Quote. Yes, pay if you don't have money. The 1,000 hand pillar suddenly spoke to the two at this time. When Tsunade and Yechen heard this, they were immediately stunned, and then their gazes collided together. Tsunade's gaze at the night morning, the heart under the mountain peak, suddenly beat violently. The pretty face suddenly turned red, and then, turned around. While walking out in a little hurry, he said, "If you want money, you want someone to have one, you choose it yourself." Chapter 91. Boom. When Yechin heard this, he was stunned for a few seconds, looked at Tsunade's back, and then thought of what she said, and suddenly swallowed his saliva a little uncontested ly. Then, Yechin reacted, and then a group of divine beasts roared past his brain. "I'm going. Emotional Tsunade and Senjukuma are playing me. Ha ha." At this time, the thousand-hand pillar laughed again. "Xiao Yechin, don't let down Xiao Gang in the future." Chinshozu patted Yi Chen's shoulder and said seriously. Although the thousand-hand pillars seem to be grinning, the nerves are large. In fact, he is wise and foolish, he knows everything. This time he was summoned back, and apart from Konoha, the one he was most worried about was his granddaughter Tsunade. Now the real Senju clan is only Tsunade and Yorichin. Tsunade's experience over the years, he has also heard. He didn't want his only bloodline to return to that upheaval life. However, no matter what he said, his grandfather was already a dead man for 21 years, and sooner or later he would leave this world. Therefore, as an elder, he must find a stable home for his granddaughter. As for Senjuma, he thought the same as Senjukuma. They were all dead people, and they really wanted to find a good home for Tsunade. It's just that what he thinks in his heart is not as pure as that of the thousand-hand pillar. He felt that only Tsunade and Yoshin were left in the Senju clan. And Tsunade and Yechin are the only male members who have awakened Mudun and have kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. One is a supergirl ninja who has the bloodline of her eldest brother and also has a shadow-level strength. If the two of them are combined, the potential of the bloodline born will definitely not be low. Even, in the future, the Senju clan will become a real forest of thousands of hands. Moreover, the most important thing is that he discovered Tsunade, and actually had some meaning for Yechin, but Tsunade has not shown it due to his age and the relationship on Jushinai's side. It was precisely because he knew that Tsunade was interested in Yechin that Senjuma encouraged his eldest brother to jointly come up with a way to pay back this person who owed money. At first, Tsunade was unaware of the plan between Senjukuma and Senjukuma. "I thought that the hand between the thousand-hand pillars was itchy. I want to go to the casino. And she is also a good gambler, plus it was called by her grandfather, naturally she will not refuse." Subsequently, naturally, the two of them kept losing money and borrowing money. And since when borrowing money, it is signed between thousands of pillars, Tsunade is even more extravagant, and he is not soft in spending money. However, Tsunade is not a fool either, after she calms down. Immediately, the abnormality between the thousand-hand pillars was discovered. After all, with the character of the thousand-hand pillar, what kind of conspiracy and trickery he wanted him to use, it was really a little difficult for him. In the end, under the persecution of Tsunade, the Senju pillar really couldn't stand it. Directly pushed the thousand hands out. And after Senjuma also knew that he couldn't hide it, he simply told the two brothers that they wanted to match her and Yechin directly. At first, Tsunade was reluctant. But under the persuasion of the thousand hands and the throbbing impulses in the heart, he simply ignored it. So be it. Let it be. Yechin is not stupid. When things have come to this point, he naturally saw that the two brothers between the thousand-hand pillars are going to hand over Tsunade to him. And he is not a hypocritical person, not to mention that he already has some feelings for Tsunade, just the mountain of Tsunade, no one can refuse, right? "Don't worry, grandfather, second grandfather, Tsunade will be handed over to me in the future, I won't let her be wronged again." Yechin looked at the thousand hands pillar and the thousand hands pillar, and solemnly assured. "Ha ha, now we're really a family." Thousand hand pillars laughed and hugged Yechin's neck. A smile also appeared on Senjuma's face at this time. The decline of the thousand hands clan is also a credit to him. If he hadn't been blind and chose the ape-flying sun to become the Hokage, I'm afraid the thousand hands clan wouldn't have become like this. Therefore, since he knew the situation of the Thousand Hands clan, he had always felt a little guilty in his heart. Now that Yorichin and Tsunade are united, he believes that the Senju clan will be stronger than before. Outside the Hokage office, Tsunade leaned his back against the wall, eavesdropping on the conversation inside. When she heard Yi Chen's assurance, a smile gradually appeared on her originally somewhat apprehensive face. Tsunade-sama, are you going to marry Yorichin-sama? Tsunade's little henchman was silent and also heard the conversation in the office, and at this time, she saw Tsunade with a smile on her face, and she also smiled and spoke. When Tsunade heard this, he turned his head to look at Shizune, and saw Shizune looking at her with a smile, and his heart was a little panicked. It seems that the kitten who stole the fish has been discovered. Seeing the smile on Shizune's face, she always felt that she meant to tease her, so she narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Shizune. Shizune was looked at by Tsunade like this, and his heart clicked. Just about to leave, he was directly hugged by Tsunade's neck, and then he heard Tsunade say, "Yes, I'm going to get married, but you can't run away, so be it, Tsunade now makes you a housewife, and when I get married, you will marry with me." Quote. When Shizune heard this, he was immediately dumbfounded. Didn't she just say a word of congratulations? Why did you still put yourself inside the Hokage office? After Yechin and the two brothers of Senju finished talking about personal affairs, they talked about the affairs of the Daimyofu. In this regard, the thousand-hand pillars were silent. Senjuma, on the other hand, looked at Yechin and said, "I've heard of your theory of unification. In fact, when Big Brother established Konoha, I proposed that Big Brother also grow up several other countries. However, in the end, it was vetoed by the eldest brother. In addition, he also supported the daimyo of the Fire Nation." Quote. Speaking of this, several people present all looked at the Thousand Hands pillar in unison. Senjuju scratched his head and sighed, "I was thinking that the chaos in the warring states had been going on for so long. It's also time to end the war, there is no need to fight any longer. And no matter how the Daimyofu says, it is also the orthodoxy of the country of fire. I think that ordinary people should have the way of life of ordinary people. Ninjas have a ninja way of survival. And the most people in this world are ordinary people, and they felt that it was right to let the daimyo manage ordinary talents, so they supported the daimyofu. However, I really didn't expect that only a few decades had passed, and the daimyo had already affected Konoha, and even had the audacity to meddle in the ninja world. What I didn't expect was that the interfamily war during the Warring States period evolved into a war between countries." Quote. For the idea between the Thousand Hand Pillars, Yechin can only be said to be too naive. They all live in a world, and they are divided into ordinary people and non-ordinary people, and this horse is ripping off eggs. Isn't this imprisoned with a pack of wolves and a few tigers, and if the tiger doesn't hurt the wolf, doesn't the wolf hurt the tiger? Naive. Hearing the words of the Thousand Hands Pillar, he also shook his head, and then, looked at Yechin and said, "After the eldest brother left, I also thought about unifying the ninja world, but I didn't have the strength of the eldest brother, even if there was a nine-tailed pillar power of the eldest sister-in-law at that time. But the major ninja villages also have tailed beasts, and I don't dare to make too much moves, just for fear that these ninja villages will unite and start a war desperately." Quote. Speaking of this, Chinsho glanced at his good big brother with resentful eyes. I have to say that his big brother really has a pit in his head, and it is really a pit. You know, the original nine-tailed beasts were all captured by the Thousand Hand Pillar and Uchiha Spot. If he hadn't separated the tailed beasts between the Thousand Hand Pillars at the beginning, even if Konoha didn't have the Senju Pillars and Uchiha Madara, when he took the throne, he would be able to rely on the power of the nine-tailed beasts to sweep the ninja world. If he had unified the ninja world at that time, how could there be any ninja world war? In the morning of the night, Nara Shikaku also looked at the Senju pillar speechlessly at this time. Yechin looked at him as if he were looking at a saint. This guy is simply the virgin of the ninja realm. That is, the Thousand Hands Pillar is the protagonist of that period, otherwise, such a character would have died hundreds of times. What is the difference between giving the tailed beast to other villages and giving nuclear weapons to other countries? The Thousand Hands Pillar was indeed miserable by the Thousand Hands Pillar. To say that Senju had the idea of unifying the ninja world, Yechin would not doubt it. Because, the character of a Thousand Hands is originally a hawk. Moreover, Senjuma also has that wisdom and ability, and has the crazy idea of having the qualifications to think and unify the ninja world. After all, the name of the ninja world Forbidden Master is not called for nothing. Moreover, if there are no tailed beasts in the major ninja villages, with his forbidden technique, Senjuma may really be able to complete the unification. However, during that period, there were tailed beasts in each ninja village. Although he has the art of flying thunder god and is not afraid of tailed beasts, other ninjas in Konoha are similar to ants in the face of tailed beasts. This leads to, Thousand Hands had that idea, but because of the tailed beast, he didn't dare to make much moves, and in the end, he died under the ambush of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn. This is a model of being miserable by brothers. Ah ha ha. The eyes of the three people between the 1,000-hand pillars were all on him. Moreover, the eyes of the three were a little unfriendly, and he could only laugh a few times awkwardly. At the beginning, he felt that it was right. The distribution of tailed beasts is also to balance the ninja world, and by the way, take some money from various villages to develop Konoha. But now look at the several ninja world wars that broke out after his death. Because of his distribution of tailed beasts, more people died on the battlefield. He realized how stupid he was. Alas, don't talk about that. Senjuma sighed. What can he do? He has such a big brother, he is also desperate. After sighing between the 1,000 hands, he looked at Yechen again. When I was still in power, the Daimyo did not dare to extend its hand to Konoha, but I really didn't expect that after this ape-flying son was cut to the throne, the Daimyo had such a reputation in this Konoha. Moreover, they can also appoint Hokage. This is outrageous. Quote. When Naruto heard this, he was also a little embarrassed. He began to understand, and the ape-flying slash was the Hokage. At that time, the village treated the Daimyo as if it were treating a god. He also did not expect that the reason why the Daimyo mansion was able to rise was supported by 1,000-hand pillars. Moreover, listening to the meaning of the words of the second generation when the second generation of the head was in power, the Daimyo did not dare to make a second time. The reason why the Daimyo was able to influence Konoha was entirely during the reign of Sarutobi Hinata. In other words, the sacred and inviolable status of the Daimyo was blown out by people with intentions after the ape-flying son was cut to the throne. And the generation after he ascended to the throne as an ape-flying son was also instilled with the concept of the sanctity and inviolability of the Daimyo. Apes flying to the sun, it's not shallow. Nima, such a person, if you don't talk about undercover, he doesn't believe it. That's not right. Quote. Suddenly, Nara Shikaku seemed to have thought of something, and he looked at Senjuma and asked, Second Dame-sama, I found that the daimyo of other countries, although not like us in Konoha, Hokage still needs daimyo appointments. However, they also have a very great influence in the ninja village in their own country. Quote. When Chinsho heard this, he smiled coldly, and then said, What 5 great ninja villages, when they were first established, they still copied the ideas of the eldest brother. And their country at that time did not have a big brother, and a super strong person like Uchiha. Given the chaos at that time, if you want to create a shinobi village, you must compromise with each other and provide financial support. Quote. When Nara Shikaku heard this, he immediately understood the meaning of Senju's words. In other words, the establishment of other ninja villages, the daimyo of each country was contributed. Only the Land of Fire was directly fought down by Senjukuma and Uchiha. So, second grandfather, I want to make a move on the daimyo now, you won't object, right? Yechen looked at Senjukuma at this time. The 1,000-hand pillars on the side heard this, and seemed to have something to say. However, none of the people present paid attention to him. He could only hold back what he was about to say. Naturally, I won't object. HMPH. Let a monkey be a king for so long, does his famous house really think that he is a tiger? Quote. Xiao Yechen, do whatever you want. Senju snorted coldly, expressing his dissatisfaction with the daimyo, and at the same time supporting Yechen. King Qian's. However, after saying these words, he said with a serious face, However, before you want to make a move against the daimyo, you must think clearly. Once you make a move on the daimyo, you or Konoha as a whole really have the potential to be an enemy of the entire ninja world. Quote. Senju saw very thoroughly. Don't look at several countries that have already broken out several ninja wars. But once Yechen makes a move on the daimyo of other countries will definitely not be able to sit still. After all, if there is an example of Yechin, what if other countries do the same? Therefore, once Yechin makes a move on the daimyo of all countries will definitely unite. Ha! Yi Chen suddenly smiled when he heard this. Although, with our current strength, we are not yet capable of opening the pace of unification. However, if they really dare to step into the land of fire, I can definitely let them come and die as many things as they want. Quote. Yorudo talked about the day with the Senju brothers, as well as Nara Shikahisa, in the Hokage office. When night falls, the station of the Senju clan. Night morning in the villa garden. Big grandpa, second grandfather, can't you stay for a while? Quote. Moreover, tomorrow the messenger of the Daimyo will come, if you are there. Tsunade, who has always looked like a strong woman, looked at the Thousand Hands Pillar and the Thousand Hands Pillar with moist eyes at this time. Yes, the Senju brothers and Uchiha Sena are about to return to the underworld. Nope, Senjukuma looked at Tsunade, whose eyes were moist, with a kind smile on his face. After all, we don't belong to this world anymore. Let me leave the affairs of the living to you. Quote. Moreover, we are all already dead, and I am already satisfied that I can come back to see Konoha. HMPH. At this time, Uchiha Sena snorted coldly on the side and pouted, pretentious. Quote. Chinsho glanced at his old opponent, and finally looked at Yechin and said, Xiao Yechin, don't blame us, don't stay to help you. Your current strength, although not worse than the eldest brother. However, to fulfill your ideals, you don't just have strength. It just so happens that the people from the Daimyo can be said to be your calamity, and it is also a test for you, let me see your strength. Quote. When Chinsho said this, he suddenly paused, and then said again, you can learn about the rebirth of dirt, and if necessary, you can also let us old guys come back to help. However, I still want you to be on your own. Quote. I see, second grandpa. When Yechin heard this, he nodded solemnly. So, here we go. Quote. Senju glanced at the side of Senju pillar, and after seeing that he had calmed Tsunade, he nodded to everyone. Immediately, a seal was formed and pressed on Senjukuma and Uchiha Sena. Solution. Whoops. Pieces of debris floated up from the three of them. Immediately afterwards, the souls of the three began to break away from their physical bodies and fly towards the sky. Xiao Yechin, you can't bully Xiao Gang, and have a few more babies. Before leaving, the Thousand-Hand Pillar suddenly shouted at Yi Chen. Suddenly, the atmosphere that was originally a little sad changed in an instant. The eyes of the Uchiha Fugaku family, Ju Shinai, Red Bean, Sunset Red, and Uchiha Makoto looked at Yechin and Tsunade in unison. Tsunade's pretty face immediately turned red. Pulling mute, while walking out quickly, he said, I still have business, just go first, bye. Quote. After speaking, the person has disappeared. Suddenly, everyone's eyes all looked at Yechin in unison. Nima, isn't this a pit man? Yechin secretly scolded Senjukuma, with a smile on his face, and looked at Jushina and Uchiha Makoto, that Tsunade's business. You come with me. Without waiting for Yechin to finish speaking, Jushinai pulled Yechin back to the villa. Feel the Yechin senior pill. Red Bean looked at Yechin, who was pulled by Jushinai, and whispered in Sunset Hong's ear. This doesn't have to be. Sunset Red smiled, and then sighed, Yomoto Senpai is really powerful, even Tsunade-sama. Yes, Tsunade-sama is my role model, and now he has been taken down by Yoshin-senpai, which is really powerful. Azuki nodded in agreement, and then, his eyes rolled around, and he muttered in a low voice, if I take down Yechin-senpai again, then won't I be more powerful than Tsunade-sama? Quote. The Sunset Red on the side, hearing the muttering of Red Beans, couldn't help but be speechless for a while. The heart said, who took this and who does not know? So, we took our leave. Quote. Uchiha Fugaku's family, at this time spoke. The reason why he came over was also to send Uchiha Sena, the ancestor of the Uchiha clan, Now the people have actually sent away. Then it's time for them to go back too. After Uchiha Fugaku said something, directly took his wife, as well as Uchiha Itachi and little Sasuke, and left the villa of Yechin. And, before leaving, he did not forget to clean up the 3 corpses that were sacrificed to Yechin. Looking at the back of Uchiha Fugaku's family leaving, Uchiha Makoto looked at Sunset Red and Red Bean. Okay, everyone is almost gone, how about you stay? Or go home. Quote. Makoto Uchiha, Sunset Red, and Red Bean all have rooms here in the night morning. Uchiha Makoto has already decided to marry Yoshin, plus there are no extra rules in the ninja world. Therefore, Makoto Uchiha sometimes simply stays here at night. Of course, Yechin has not completely won this mature royal sister yet. As for the Sunset Red and Bean, why is there a room here in the night morning? Externally, it is said that he will practice ninjutsu here in the night morning. In fact, only the two of them knew. Let's go back. Shiraihong thought about it, and then pulled Red Bean and left Yechin's villa. In an instant, only Makoto Uchiha was left in the entire garden. Makoto Uchiha looked at the empty garden and slightly looked up at the starry night sky. Can it only be a vase? Quote. Uchiha Makoto suddenly felt a little melancholy. She felt that the distance between her and Yechin and Jushina seemed to be getting farther and farther away. Originally, there were only 3 of them. However, now there is another Tsunade, and she. It seems that it can no longer keep up with the footsteps of the night morning. I'm also like Jushinai. One day I can fight side by side with you. I'm so unwilling. Quote. Uchiha Makoto thought of the scene a few days ago, when Sarutobi led people to destroy the Uchiha clan. Jushinai fought side by side with Yi Chen. Instead, she hid in an underground shelter. She was so unwilling. Once upon a time, she was also a genius of the Uchiha clan. At a young age, he awakened the Sango Jade Riding Wheel Eye, and his strength reached the level of elite upper patience. But, she was now not even qualified to intervene in the battle between them in the night morning. Unwillingly, she doesn't want to be a vase. She longs to fight alongside Yechin. She craves strength. Father. Uchiha Makoto's eyes suddenly turned scarlet. The 3-hook jade riding wheel was actually opened by itself. Immediately afterwards, the 3 Guyu in Uchiha Makoto's eyes spun rapidly. In an instant, these 3 gouged jades were connected together to form a pattern. Feeling the change in her eyes, Makoto Uchiha covered one eye in disbelief, and her heart was full of shock. Have you opened the kaleidoscope chakra eye? Night morning in the room. Jushinai expressionlessly threw the dog man on the bed, and stepped on the crime tool of the night morning with one foot. Yechin, you can, even Tsunade-san took it. Say, what's going on? Jushinai looked at Yechin expressionlessly, stepped on the foot on Yechin's crime tool, and gently rubbed it. Hiss. Yechin felt something strange somewhere and took a slight breath. Nima, when did Jushinai become so good? However, Yechin was very honest and told the original story of what happened in Hokage's office today. After hearing this, Jushinai's eyes widened and he looked at Yechin with a face full of disbelief. So, did the first and second adults calculate you? Quote. Yechin nodded and shook his head again. It's really hard to say this, anyway. I'm not losing, hehe. Quote. When Jushinai heard this, he glanced at Yi Chen, and immediately, he was ready to take his feet away. Don't, go on. Yechin grabbed Jushinai's little foot. Jushinai looked at Yechin speechlessly, and immediately, the whole person fell on Yechin. I really didn't expect that Sister Tsunade also meant this to you. Quote. Hehe, don't say you didn't expect it, me too. Yechin hugged Jushinai and smiled happily. However, her hands are very dishonest. Don't make trouble. Not today, I'm here. Jushinai patted Yi Chen's hand. Isn't it, sister, you still beat me when you come there? Yechin stared at Jushinai. Hey, Jushinai looked at Yechin with a stubborn face, and revealed a smile like a little fox. Anyway, today is not possible. Quote. Alright, what else can I do in the morning? Go to sleep. Or, are you going to Makoto's room tonight? Seeing this, Jushinai slowly spoke. If you say this, I won't be sleepy. Yechin sat up, and immediately, seeing Jushinai's smiling expression, he lay down again. Forget it, I'm too tired these days. Wait a minute, there's no hurry. Quote. Really not in a hurry. Jushinai glanced at something in the night. Yi Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, and then, he suddenly pulled up the quilt and covered the two of them. There are always more ways than difficulties, one does not work, and there are still passable. Quote. Phew. Late at night, night morning woke up in a daze, woke up by urine. gently pushed away Ju Shinai in his arms, sent the toilet back, and was about to continue to lie down. Suddenly, Yechen's whole person was stunned and stood in place. The reason why Yechen stayed was completely because the system that had not appeared for a long time jumped out at this time. Ding! Congratulations to the host for controlling Konoha and obtaining the luck value of Konoha village. Ding! Obtaining Konoha village's chi luck points. Ding! Successful acquisition. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500,000 luck. Hearing these messages from the system's sudden corpse, Yechen's whole person was stunned. It's not that I'm scared by the system. But why did he control Konoha and only get 500,000 chi luck points? Even the current Konoha was almost crippled by the scourge of Sarutobi and others. But Konoha is still the head of the 5 great ninja villages now. After taking over such a large Konoha ninja village, there is only 500,000 chi luck value, he specially teased me. System, what the hell is going on? I need a reasonable explanation. Why is it that such a big village, how can there only be 500,000 luck values? Shouldn't it be that you have withheld it? Quote. Yechen asked the system suspiciously. After all, this luck value is related to his strength. Now that he has made such a big move, he may completely turn his face with the Daimyo Fu tomorrow. When he cleans up the Daimyo mansion, other countries will definitely blow up. Maybe the 4th Ninja World War will start for this. And once the 4 battles began, he didn't believe it, and Uchiha would not fish in troubled waters. At that time, the 4th Ninja World War. Oh no, it should be a war against him, maybe it will become a black savior. At that time, the combat power was directly pulled up to the 6th level. His strength is simply not enough to see. Ding! Back to the host, you are only in control of Konoha now, but you have not become the true leader of Konoha. So before you become the leader of this village, you can only get half of the luck of Konoha village at present. When Yechen heard this, his brows furrowed, and immediately, he opened his mouth again and asked, so, Konoha's total chi luck value is only 1 million. System, how do you calculate this luck value? Konoha is also the first of the 5 great ninja villages, and the luck value is only so little. Quote. Yechen's concern now is not to only get half of the chi luck value. After all, he is now a Hokage, which is just a ritual. What he cares about now is why there are so few chi luck points. As Yechen said, Konoha is also the head of the 5 great ninja villages, not to mention that the luck value is 1100 billion. At least there should be a few million, right? But now the system told him that the chi luck value of the entire Konoha was only 1 million, how did this system calculate it? Ding! Please do not doubt the expertise of the system. The systematic chi algorithm is calculated according to the strength of the force, such as the strong, wealth, population and other comprehensive strength. Host, you can calculate the comprehensive strength of Konoha at this time. Comprehensive strength. When Yechen heard this, he frowned and thought. If you want to say strength, then you have to count Konoha's current masters. That is called a master, and that strength must reach the point of shadow level. And the entire Konoha, the shadow level powerhouse, in addition to him and Kushina, is Tsunade, who has just returned to the village, and Uchiha Fugaku, who has a kaleidoscope riding wheel eye. As for Hinata Hiyashi, and Nara Shikaku and others, the comprehensive strength is the same as the elite shinobu. Maybe Hinata is a little stronger, but it is also limited, and it is a half-step shadow level. In this way, the masters of the entire Konoha, counting him, there are only 4 people. Hey, no, the system, a ninja village has 4 shadow levels, and the strength is not bad, right? Quote. Besides, I'm still a super shadow level master. In this way, Konoha is not weak anymore. System, you honestly, are you pitting me? Yechen frowned and asked the system, how did he feel that the system was pitting him? Ding. Host, please note that this system speaks of comprehensive strength. Do you understand the comprehensive strength? Comprehensive strength does not refer to just individuals, but to Konoha as a whole. The host can do the math carefully, and the system will not make an error. And the current Konoha has 1 million chi luck value, which is still supported by the strength of the host, otherwise, the luck of the entire Konoha would not even be 1 million. Not 1 million. Yechen heard the explanation of the system, and the whole person was shocked. He really didn't expect that Konoha was already weak to this extent. But, if you think about it, it's true. If there were no him, it would be the same as the plot in the original book. At this time, Konoha, the shadow level is only Sarutobi Hinata, Shimura Danzo, and Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui. Moreover, Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui are still feared by Konoha and dare not expose their true power. That is to say, the entire Konoha, the shadow level on the bright side, only Sarutobi Hinata and Shimura Danzo. And these two shadow levels are still in a state of declining strength. After talking about Konoha's advanced combat power, let's talk about Konoha's mainstay. At this point in time, Konoha, Kakashi, these new generations, the strength can be regarded as reaching the upper shinobi, has not reached the peak. And except for Kakashi's generation, the other mainstays have all aged. It can be said that the Konoha at this time is really a time when green and yellow. After talking about military power, let's talk about the economy. Konoha's economy is based on commercial taxes and a cut of ninja quests. In terms of commercial tax, in recent years, thanks to Chinatown and Wanda Plaza in the evening, otherwise, commercial tax hardly accounts for 30% of Konoha's finances. After all, Konoha village is so big, and the village is in a semi-closed state, and the flow of people cannot be as prosperous as the city where ordinary people are located. Therefore, Konoha's commercial tax, which can have 30%, is already very good. And the remaining 70% of the financial revenue is the ninja's mission draw. Most of these tasks were handed over from the Daimyo side. Only a small number of businessmen themselves come to post tasks. In other words, Konoha's economy and finances were completely controlled by the Daimyo. Not to mention, a village that is controlled by people to have a million luck is really a blessing for the night. Nima, the ape of the dog day flies to the sun. Quote, thinking of the former Konoha, who was slashed by the ape flying sun into this way, Yechin secretly scolded the ape flying sun / again. If it weren't for the various suppressions of the ape flying sun, it would have been framed. Konoha will only have this certain master. Will Konoha be directly taken by the Daimyo? Phew, Yi-Chen exhaled a long breath, and immediately, brought up his attribute panel. Name, Senju Yechin. Physique, immortal body perfect. Chakra, 133 cards in the super shadow. Blood succession boundary, Mu Duan. Kaleidoscope writing wheel I left time backtracking, right time acceleration. Chakra attributes wind, water, earth, fire, thunder, yang. Ninjutsu Thunder Dun armor, Chidori bird, ratchet, yin seal, Mu Dun ninjutsu collection, spiral pill, shadow doppelganger art, wind dun, vacuum jade, wind dun crushing, 2 dun, Tulu wall, 2 dun, the art of decapitation in the heart, lay dun. Comprehensive strength, super shadow mid-period. Gas luck value, 610,000. Has my strength reached the middle stage of the super shadow? Yi-Chen looked at the attribute panel, his comprehensive strength was 1. Discovering his comprehensive strength, he took a small step forward again. And the reason why it took a small step further was entirely because, after the battle with the original Hokage, Sarutobi Hinata, and Uchiha Senna, he has a clearer understanding of his strength. At the same time, he is more proficient in controlling his own power. After Yi-Chen glanced at his comprehensive strength, his gaze fell on the chi luck value. Looking at the gas luck value, the 61 complete luck is displayed. Yechin was a little tangled. To be honest, he really wanted to open a pack now to celebrate his control of Konoha. However, there are only 600,000, and there is still 400,000 short enough to buy a diamond pack. In other words, he can only buy the gold pack now, which is not enough to buy the diamond pack. How about buying a celebratory celebration? Yi-Chen secretly said in his heart. Ding! At this time, the voice of the system sounded again from Yi-Chen's mind. Yi-Chen's attention was immediately attracted by the sound of the system. System tips. Since the host controls a force, and the force is the core force of the world, the system obtains more energy through this force as a node. Ding! After the system energy is replenished, the connection function of the heavens is turned on. Ding! Silver gift pack heavenly connection failed. Ding! Gold pack heavenly connection failed. Yechin listened to the prompt tone of the system in his mind, and the whole person was confused. What's going on with this system? Because Konoha is the core power of this world. Therefore, After he controls this core force, the system energy is replenished, and the heavens function can be turned on. But, is it for the Mao Silver Pack and the Gold Pack, or the connection failed? Is there any difference between this and before you finish replenishing your energy? Isn't it still something that can't open up the heavens and realms? But soon, the change in the system was discovered in the morning. Ding! The Diamond Pack connects the heavens and worlds successfully. Ding! The Diamond Pack opens the heavens and worlds function. Wait, the Diamond Pack opened the heavens and realms. Quote. When Yechin heard the system's prompt tone for this day, the whole person was stunned, and then overjoyed. You know, before the system is replenished with energy. Silver, gold, and diamonds are 3 kinds of gift bags, but they can only open things in the Hokage world. The current diamond gift package can actually open items from the heavens and realms. How can this not make Yechin happy? Hokage, Hokage, I want to be a veritable Hokage. At this time, Yechin couldn't wait to hold the coronation ceremony of Hokage immediately. Because, as long as he becomes the Hokage, he can get another 500,000 chi luck points. In this way, he can open the diamond pack. I don't know what kind of heavenly treasures can be opened in the diamond gift bag. Or what world's treasures can be opened. Quote. Yechin became more and more curious about the diamond package. Morning, what are you doing standing at the toilet door? Just as Yechin was thinking about it, Ju Shinai's voice came over. When Yechin heard this, he looked at the sleepy-eyed Ju Shinai. Well, needless to say, she also wakes up at night. It's okay, the room is a little stuffy, come out to breathe. Yechin was still thinking about the diamond gift bag in his mind, and after hearing Ju Shinai's words, he subconsciously replied. Come out, breathable, quote. Ju Shinai was also full of confusion. She looked at Yechin, then looked at the toilet, and said blankly, Yechin, are you sleepy? Do you breathe and run to the toilet door? Quote. Night morning. Next, around noon, outside the gate of Konoha. A group of dozens of people, guarding a palanquin, headed towards the gate of Konoha. What people? Kamizuki Izumo, one of Konoha's goalkeepers, and Copper Iron, stopped in front of the group. Yaga, seeing Kamizuki Izumo and the two blocking the way, a middle-aged man with a katana pinned to his waist, a pair of clogs under his feet, and his hair cut into a standard samurai, put one hand on the hilt of the katana, and glared angrily at the two. Are you Konoha so unreasonable? Knowing that today's daimyo messenger is coming, what night and morning do not go out to greet you, even if you send 2 cats and dogs to block the way, you Konoha are so disrespectful to the daimyo, are you not afraid that the daimyo will send troops to destroy your Konoha? Quote. This middle-aged samurai said, and dozens of other samurai, one by one, holding the hilt of a katana, surrounded the two of them. The messenger of the daimyo has really arrived. Seeing this, Shenyu Rising Cloud and Tong Ziti looked at each other, and then looked at these menacing samurai around. All of them said in their hearts, it seems that the daimyo is really here to make trouble. However, although it is known that these people are all people from the daimyo, Shenyu Izumo did not bother, because he had already received the order from above in advance. I saw Shenyu Izumo facing dozens of samurai, without panicking at all, slowly taking a step, and said with a somewhat lazy expression, oh. It turned out to be the messenger of the daimyo. Okay, come and fill out the entry and exit form. Quote. Shenyu Izumo said, not knowing where to come from, took out a stack of papers and handed it to the middle-aged samurai at the head. Yagaya rode. The middle-aged samurai saw that the god Moon Izumo did not show a little respect at all because they were from the daimyo mansion, and his heart was already unhappy. Now they actually have to fill out the form to enter Konoha. This is naked humiliation. As a samurai loyal to the daimyo, he represented the daimyo. When he is humiliated, it is equivalent to the daimyo being humiliated. If someone dares to humiliate the daimyo, then they can be commoners. So, the middle-aged samurai roared angrily, pulled out his katana, and wanted to slash the fool in front of him. However, his katana had just pulled out a few points, but the whole person was stunned in place, not daring to move for half a point. The middle-aged warrior suddenly stopped moving, not that he suddenly calmed down. Instead, at this time, a sharp kunai was standing on his neck. The middle-aged samurai turned slightly to the side, and immediately saw a young man wearing a mask, wearing a black tight combat uniform, and his white hair was gently blown up by the breeze. At this time, the other eye was covered by a mask and forehead protector, and the other eye revealed a lazy expression. "Don't move, or you'll die." The lazy voice of the young man reached the ears of the middle-aged samurai, like the chant of a demon. You Konoha turned out. How dare to?" Feeling the sharp kunai on his neck, touching the touch on his skin, this middle-aged warrior was angry and a little afraid at the same time. And the movement on this side of the Konoha gate also attracted the attention of the villagers of Konoha at this time. One by one, the villagers of Konoha village gathered around the gate, pointing at the group of samurai and talking. "Who are these people? Dare to come to our Konoha to make trouble? Does this not want to live?" Quote, "I just heard their conversation. Those samurai seem to be people from the Daimyo. Oh, the messenger of the Daimyo in that palanquin should be the Daimyo." What? It turned out to be an envoy from the Daimyo. Quote, "Well, it should be, otherwise there wouldn't be so many samurai guarding that palanquin." Shish. So what is the situation now? The Daimyo has come to the messenger, why stop them? Quote, "Yes, they are people from the Daimyo house, and now they have stopped the Daimyo's messenger. What if the Daimyo is angry? Hey, isn't that Kakashi? How dare he make a move on the messenger of the Daimyo? It's over, the Daimyo is going to blame us Konoha now." Quote, "By the way, the messenger of the Daimyo has arrived. Why didn't Lord Yechin go out to greet him?" Moreover, Kakashi also had a conflict with the Daimyo messenger, and at this moment, the Daimyo was really going to get angry. Quote, "HMPH, what Daimyo, the messenger of an ordinary person, dares to let Lord Yechin personally greet him? Gave him face." Quote, "That is, with the strength of our Lord Yechin, let alone the envoy of the Daimyo coming, or the Daimyo himself coming, can he afford the courtesy of the night mourning? What do you know? Do you know what the Daimyo stands for? If we provoke the Daimyo, we Konoha will be finished." Quote, "Bah, what is the Daimyo capable of? No matter how powerful it is there a night mourning adult powerful?" Quote, "The villagers of Konoha watched the scene at the gate of Konoha, and they talked about it one by one. And when the villagers learned that those people turned out to be people from the Daimyo, many people's faces changed drastically, especially when they saw Kakashi and actually threatened the samurai of the Daimyo. They felt like the sky had fallen. Daimyo, that's a Daimyo. How dare they do this to the messengers of the Daimyo? Many people began to accuse Kakashi and Kamizuki Izumo of the unreasonableness. He even began to complain about the night mourning. And Yechin also has a lot of brain-dead fans, and when they heard someone complain about Yechin, they stood up one by one and sneered at the Daimyo. Suddenly, the onlookers of Konoha were divided into two factions. One faction felt that the Daimyo was supreme, and Konoha should not provoke it, and also felt that Yechin had to personally greet the Daimyo messenger. The other faction feels that the Daimyo is a garbage, just such a garbage messenger, wants their ninja god, personally come to greet it. Isn't this a dream? So, these two groups of people actually cursed the street on the spot at the gate of Konoha. At the gate of Konoha, when the dozens of samurai saw their heads, they were actually taken to their necks, and all of a sudden, these samurai held katanas one by one and surrounded them. At the same time, more than a dozen samurai surrounded the palanquin and protected it. Is that how you treat the Daimyo with this attitude in Konoha? At this time, a shrill voice came from the palanquin. Immediately afterwards, the curtain of the palanquin was opened, and a feminine man with a stature, a face painted white like a ghost, and a fan in his hand appeared in front of everyone. When the curtain of the palanquin was lifted, and the shrill voice reached everyone's ears, everyone's eyes were all looking in the direction of the palanquin. The villagers in Lien Konoha village, who were dividing into two factions to scold the street, also closed their mouths at this time, and one by one, they looked at the Daimyo messenger in the palanquin. Speaking, is this how you Konoha treat the Daimyo? Quote, the Daimyo messenger, who was like an ancient Chinese eunuch, holding a fan in his hand, slightly covering half of his face, squinted his eyes, looked at Kakashi, and asked again in his shrill voice. Sorry, Konoha's rules, entering and leaving the village, must be registered. Kakashi took away the kunai that was hanging around the middle-aged samurai's neck, looked at the Daimyo messenger with lazy eyes, and said in an indifferent tone, "Be bold." When the Daimyo messenger heard this, he was immediately furious, do you still have a daimyo in your Konoha's eyes? Are you Konoha trying to betray the land of fire? Quote. Whoops. Everyone around them, hearing the words of the daimyo messenger, became nervous one by one. Those samurai who came with the daimyo messenger sharpened their swords and looked like they were ready to fight. Kaka paid no attention to it. The samurai who sharpened their swords around him, his gaze was still full of lazy expressions, just staring directly at the daimyo messenger, and did not speak. The temperature at the scene seemed to be constantly dropping, and a murderous aura enveloped everyone. Boom. Those villagers in Konoha swallowed their saliva one by one, and their bodies involuntarily began to retreat. Phew. Seeing that Kakashi was so rude, the daimyo messenger was so angry that the white powder on his face kept falling. He pointed at Kakashi, and shouted in a voice like a duck man, on the contrary, take him for me, I will go and ask him how he manages his subordinates. Quote. Hey. When the surrounding samurai heard this, they responded one by one, and immediately after, a blue sword chi appeared on their katana, ready to attack Kakashi and Kamizuki Izumo, and Copper Iron. Shoes scolding dad. At this moment, a voice came from a distance, and immediately after, a green figure descended from the sky. Rumble. This green figure, like a cannonball, fell to the ground, directly exploding a puff of dust. Ahem, ahem. The daimyo messenger was choked by the dust that flew over and coughed continuously, and the fan was almost broken by him. When the dust was blown away, everyone could see clearly what the person was coming. I saw a person, a watermelon head, wearing a green tights, a vest on the outside, and two thick eyebrows, like two caterpillars. It was none other than Kakashi's good friend, Matkai. Is also the man who almost proposed the finale in the original work, known as Kaihuang. Don't do it, you have something to say. Matkai stood between Kakashi and the daimyo messenger, his hands open, looking like he was old and peaceful. However, everyone present, facing this peaceful elder at this time, looked a little strange. Kakashi looked like Kai, who looked like an old peacemaker, and rolled his eyes into dead fish eyes. And Shenyu Izumo and Tongzi Tai, looking at Matkai's gaze, were full of admiration. As for the daimyo messenger and the samurai he brought, they were as ugly as eating ass, and the eyes that looked at Matkai seemed to be on fire. You. The daimyo messenger glared at this guy who had fallen from the sky, his face flushed with anger. Seeing this scene, Matkai looked at Kakashi suspiciously. Kakashi, what have you done? Make the daimyo messenger angry like this. Quote. When Kakashi heard this, he rolled his eyes again, looked at Kai's feet, and said in an indifferent tone, it's not me who is angry, but you. Quote. Me? What did I do with me? I came on the order of Lord Yechin to take the daimyo messenger into the village. Matkai looked puzzled. Kakashi glanced at Matkai's feet again, and then said, You still come to be a peacemaker. Quote. That's right, I'm just here to be a peacemaker, Matkai nodded, looking very serious. Seeing this, Kakashi also nodded, and then, pointed to Matkai's feet and said, if that's the case, then you should get off the others first, otherwise I will be old in peace. Quote. When Matkai heard this, he looked stunned for a moment, and then looked down. I saw that the middle-aged samurai who had just been held by Kakashi on his neck was lying on the ground on all fours at this time, foaming at the mouth, his eyes were white, and the whole person was embedded in the earth. And he, the peacemaker old Matkai, is stepping on people's bodies at this time. Oh my god, Matkai said with an exaggerated expression, and then jumped down from the man. He jumped down with a little more force, and this middle-aged samurai entered the earth for 3 points. Oops, sorry. Quote. Matkai crouched down and single-handedly slammed the middle-aged warrior out of the ground. I didn't mean to, I didn't come soon, and helped him to Konoha Hospital. Matkai supported the unconscious middle-aged samurai who was foaming at the mouth and shouted at the surrounding samurai. You. Seeing this scene, the daimyo messenger almost vomited blood. He pointed at Matkai and then at Kakashi, unable to say a word. All right, Lord Yechin sent me to bring you to the village today, and Lord Yechin said that it turned out to be an envoy of the Daimyo, so there is no need to register. However, now Lord Yechin is very busy and has no time to receive the daimyo messenger for the time being, so let's go to the village and stay here. Quote. After handing over the middle-aged samurai to the surrounding samurai, Matkai looked at the daimyo messenger with a serious face and said. When the daimyo envoy saw this scene, he still did not know that the real purpose of this so-called peace elder coming here was to give them a horse. Moreover, what happened just now was definitely done by him on purpose. Okay, I'd like to see, what do you Konoha want to do? And what does that Thousand Hands Night Morning want to do? Quote. Let's go. After the daimyo envoy endured the anger in his heart, he lowered the curtain on the palanquin. This time, no one stopped the daimyo messenger's group. They entered Konoha village very smoothly. Looking at the backs of the daimyo emissaries group, Kakashi glanced at the triumphant Matkai. Matkai saw Kakashi look at him, and he immediately gave a thumbs up, his teeth flashing. Haha, Kakashi, how is it? My acting skills are good, right? Quote. Kakashi didn't want to pay attention to the goods, rolled his eyes, and then the figure disappeared in place. Konoha Village. Hokage Office. Yechin stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, his eyes looking in the direction of Konoha's gate, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Yechin, I don't understand why we did this. We have already decided to tear our faces with the daimyofu. Why enlarge the famous messenger to enter the village? Just drive away, or kill, isn't it? Quote. Nara Shikaku looked at Yechin's back full of doubts and asked. It turned out that Kakashi, Matkai, and Kamizuki Izumo were all arranged by Yamoto at the gate of Konoha to embarrass the daimyo messenger. And Nara Shikaku was very puzzled. What's the point of doing these things in the morning? In the Hokage office, in addition to Yakin and Nara Shikahisa, there are also Uchiha Fugaku and Hinata Hiyashi. It can be said that these people are all high-ranking members of Konoha now. Hearing Nara Shikahisa's question, Uchiha Fugaku and Hinata looked at Yoshin with the same curiosity. For Yechin to tear his face at the daimyofu, several people knew. Originally, they thought that after the arrival of some daimyo messenger, Yechin either drove them away or killed them directly. But now, Yechin arranged for Kakashi to come and give the daimyo messenger a dismount, and let them in. This made several people incomprehensible. When Yechin heard this, he smiled faintly, and then, he slowly came to the Hokage desk and sat down, looking at several people. You have also seen the situation just now. Konoha is under the management of the Ape Flying Sun, and many people regard the daimyo as the irreplaceable supreme existence. It can be seen from this that the daimyo's status in Konoha is not worse than that of Hokage. And Konoha, most of the low-level ninjas, come from civilian families. If we do not erase the supremacy of the daimyo from these civilian families, when the time comes for us to go to war with the daimyofu, it is not said whether these people will rebel or not. The words of these people alone can make the people of Konoha unstable. Quote. Therefore, before fighting, the daimyo must be pulled down from that supreme altar. As the saying goes, those who win the hearts of the people win the world. Although I can destroy the daimyo mansion alone, but what I need is a stable Konoha, and Land of Fire. Quote. Yi Chen watched the three slowly say what was in their hearts. In fact, he also thought about sneaking directly into the daimyo's mansion, controlling the daimyo with illusions, and making the daimyo his puppet. However, doing so, Yechin felt that it was too troublesome. Moreover, judging from the situation of controlling Konoha, not officially becoming a Hokage, and only gaining half Konoha's gas luck. If he wants to obtain CBFI, the chi luck value of the entire Fire Nation, he cannot secretly control it, but must be honest and let everyone know that he controls the Fire Country. Now in the evening, there is a sense of urgency. Due to his appearance, the plot of the original book has been completely modified. Judging from the intelligence transmitted by Uchiha not long ago, the plan of the Shao organization to capture the tailed beast has been opened in advance. He didn't know if the 4 battles would suddenly start. I don't know if Uchiha Obito will be afraid of his power and directly resurrect Uchiha Madara. And once Uchiha is resurrected, the Black Absolute Mother Saving Tale will usher in a climax. He urgently needs to strengthen his strength now, and he has to prepare for an unknown future. Therefore, he must speed up his pace and take the entire Fire Country as soon as possible. As long as he takes the Fire Nation, he will definitely be able to obtain a large amount of chi luck. Yi Chen had a hunch that after he obtained this amount of luck, his strength would definitely usher in a leap. So, you have a plan. Nara Shikaku and several people heard Yechin's words, and Uchiha Fugaku asked. Yechin nodded, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Doesn't Konoha think that the people of the Daimyo house are all saint-like existences? So, when these saints violate their interests, will they still offer them? Quote. When several people in Nara Shikajiu heard this, their bodies suddenly shook and they understood the arrangement of the night mourning. Originally, the reason why Yoshin blocked the Daimyo messengers group in front of the gate, and asked Kakashi and a few people to give them a dismount, and finally let them enter the village. Moreover, Yechin used his busy work as an excuse to let them stay in Konoha village temporarily. And those who came out of the Daimyo mansion and got used to the group of Daimyo messengers who were used to being high, and suffered such a big loss in Konoha, would they have a good impression of Konoha? The answer is no. Moreover, they will also transfer the anger in their hearts to everyone in Konoha village. The group of Daimyo messengers who are angry in their hearts will definitely take some villagers out at that time, and when the time comes, their ugly faces will be exposed to everyone. Even, Yechin could find an excuse to start a war against the Daimyofu. What a calculation! Nara Shikaku and several people, looking at Yechin's gaze, were silent in awe. There is such an ambitious, powerful, calculating boss. While they are afraid in their hearts, they are also full of hope for the future. Perhaps, the pattern of the ninja world will change greatly from them. In the blink of an eye, it's nightfall. After entering Konoha village, the Daimyo messenger and his party came directly to Konoha's most prosperous Chinatown. When you see the prosperity of Chinatown, which is no worse than the capital. The Daimyo messenger's group was shocked. After the shock, it was natural to find a place to live temporarily. Originally, the Daimyo messenger and his party thought that someone would arrange their accommodation in Konoha village. However, when they entered the village, except for some civilians who recognized their group and showed respectful expressions, there was not a single person from Konoha village who came to arrange accommodation for them. Helpless, the Daimyo messenger and his group had to find a place to stay on their own. But something happened that made them angry. The group came to an unusually beautiful hotel. The name of this hostel is Wat Wanda Hotel. They liked the hostel so much that they planned to stay here. However, when they asked the price, Rao was from a famous mansion, had seen many scenes, and was also surprised by the price here. An ordinary single room is 100,000 taels, a double luxury suite is 500,000 taels, then what presidential suite is as high as 2 million taels. This special code robbery is not robbed like this. However, if the price is expensive, they don't say much. After all, this hotel is indeed luxurious enough, barely worthy of this price. However, what they can't tolerate the most is why do others open the same room for half their price. Isn't this bullying? The Daimyo messenger and his group wanted to blow up their hair, but they endured the task given by the Daimyo. After settling down, the group of Daimyo messengers with a burning stomach in their hearts planned to take a good look at this Konoha shinobi village. And this visit, but something happened to the shopping. Night, Konoha village, Chinatown, in front of Ichiraku ramen restaurant. Kushina and Uchiha Makoto, one pulling little Naruto and the other pulling little Sasuke, walked out of the Ichiraku ramen restaurant. He was followed by Sunset Red, as well as Red Bean and Hinata, who was carried by Red and followed behind. Stinky fart Sasuke, this time it was me who won. Haha. Little Naruto, who had a round belly, was pulled by Ju Shinai, looked at Sasuke, who was also pulled by Uchiha Makoto, and laughed. HMPH. Little Sasuke, who also had a round belly, snorted coldly in the face of little Naruto's provocation and turned his head to the side. Ju Shina and Uchiha Makoto saw these two little guys, they could quarrel after eating ramen, looked at each other, and shook their heads. Little Naruto, aren't you too proud? The champion is not you. Azuki looked at Naruto's stunned appearance, walked over, put a hand on his head, and laughed. HMPH. I don't compare with my sister-in-law. Little Naruto glanced at Hinata, who was held in his arms by Sunset Red, and thought of Hinata's bottomless pit just now, eating more than a dozen bowls of ramen into his stomach, but there was no discomfort, and snorted dissatisfied at the red beans. Honk. Hinata, who was held by Sunset Red, heard Naruto call her sister-in-law, and remembered the scene where she had just eaten noodles, and suddenly, a small face turned red, her head began to smoke, and she passed out all of a sudden. Stinky boy, what do you say? You see, the good things you did made Hinata faint. Shina slapped Naruto on the head and said viciously. Naruto scratched his head, glanced at the unconscious Hinata, and muttered in a low voice, did I say something wrong? Isn't Hinata going to marry big brother Yechin when he grows up? Anyway, sooner or later, it's all a sister-in-law. Moreover, Hinata is so kind, brother Yechin will definitely like it, maybe he won't want the big sister at that time. Brother Yechin doesn't want a big sister, so can I get out of the sea of suffering? Quote. Little Naruto muttered in a low voice, and finally his eyes brightened. And several people around Naruto were already away from Naruto at this time. I saw Naruto's back, Shinai's red hair flew like an octopus, and one fist was clenched tightly. Huh, what's wrong? Quote. Naruto, who had been walking with his head down, suddenly felt that his surroundings were empty, and he turned his head in confusion. Suddenly, Naruto saw Shinai, who looked like a demon god. Naru, man, you are dead. Quote. Ah, help, deserve it. Idiot. A moment later, little Naruto rubbed his butt, followed by a few people, and next to him was Sasuke with his hands in his pockets, looking at Naruto from time to time with a smile on his face. And Shina and Uchiha Makoto held hands, walked in front, looking at the bustling Chinatown, no matter how tired they looked. Especially Shinai, looking at the bustling scene of Chinatown, his heart is full of a sense of accomplishment. After all, in the early days of Chinatown's establishment, she managed it. Although she has now handed over the management to others, it is still the property of the Thousand Hands family. Suddenly, the crowd ahead, a burst of noise. Seeing this, Kushina and Uchiha Makoto glanced at each other and squeezed into the crowd with a few people. Before Shinai and a few people squeezed in, there was a burst of screaming and cursing from inside. 8 Quacks Road. Uncle Ben fancy you, it's your blessing, you even dare to refuse Uncle Ben. Do you know who we are? We are samurai of the Daimyo mansion, obediently follow Uncle Ben, otherwise. When Shinai heard this, his brows frowned. Needless to say, this guy who spoke must be those from the Daimyofu. And at noon today, they also knew about the movement of the Daimyofu group at the gate of Konoha. At the same time, they also knew that Yechin was very bad for the Daimyofu and even had some ideas about the Daimyofu. Now hearing the words of these samurai of the Daimyofu, the already bad impression of the Daimyofu by Shinai and others has become even worse now. Go and see. Shina frowned and said to Uchiha Makoto, and immediately, his hands pushed forward, and then the people in front of them unconsciously retreated to the sides. The crowd separated, and Shinai and several people stepped forward. Suddenly, they saw more than a dozen Daimyofu samurai, surrounded by a woman with long purple hair, fair skin, and heroic posture. Shion, Sunset Hong saw the woman who was surrounded, stunned for a moment, and then spoke up. Red, do you know the girl? Shinai heard Sunset Hong's words, turned to look at her and asked. Shirai Hong nodded, and then said, her name is Yu Xian, and we are still classmates, but after she graduated from ninja school, I haven't seen her much. However, I heard that she was specially recruited into the dark department after graduation. Quote. Oh, is that so? It seems that this little girl has some skills. When Shinai heard this, an interested look appeared on his face. After all, people who can be specially recruited into the dark department as soon as they graduate are definitely not mediocre. And when Shinai was talking with Sunset Hong, those samurai who surrounded Yu Xian made another move. The leader of those samurai, seeing that Yu Xian was surrounded by so many of them, seemed to not feel it, his expression was calm, and he was immediately angry. Directly stretched out his hand to pull Yu Xian. Little girl, you better go back with us, Uncle Ben will let you fly. Quote. When the surrounding people of Konoha saw this scene, many people were indignant, but because of the name of the Daimyofu, they did not dare to step forward to help. And more people, watching these samurai rob people and women on the street, one by one, began to talk about it. These samurai are really bold, they dare to rob people in Konoha, why haven't the people from the garrison come yet? What if you come? They are people from the Daimyo mansion, and if they don't handle it well, we in Konoha will also suffer. Quote. Bah, I have long said that the people of the Daimyo mansion are not a good thing, and at noon, they should not be allowed to enter Konoha. Yes, just now, the grandson of the old sister-in-law of Kobe accidentally bumped into a samurai, and was beaten by them, and is still lying in Konoha hospital. You know, the grandson of the old sister-in-law of Kobe is just 5 years old. I also heard about this, and I also heard that just now, these samurai not only did not give money for dinner, but also robbed the restaurant owner's money. Oh, how can these people from the great mansion be like this? Doesn't Lord Yechen care? If they continue like this, won't Konoha be all messed up? Quote. That's right, these people are too arrogant. These fools really think Konoha belongs to their family. Ju Shinai, who was not very attentive to it, suddenly became angry when he heard the words of the surrounding villagers. She really didn't expect that these people from the Daimyo mansion had only come to Konoha for less than a day and had done so many things. Beating people, eating overlord meals without saying, and robbing the money of restaurants to eat, and now robbing people and women on the street. If it continues like this, will you get it? And at this time, the samurai who grabbed Yushian suddenly covered his wrist and did not retreat, and at the same time, a scream came out of his mouth. Ah, poof. Just when everyone was puzzled, an arm fell to the ground. Everyone looked up. It turned out that the arm that grabbed the warrior who was heading for Yushian was directly cut off. What a fast knife technique. Uchi, 547, Bo Mikan opened the 3-hook jade riding wheel eyes, looking at Yushian and exclaiming with admiration. Not bad. Ju Shinai, who was about to make a move, saw this scene and smiled slightly. This little girl has courage. Quote. I'm afraid it's not that she has courage, but someone is backing her, right? Makoto Uchiha looked in the direction of the Hokage building with a smile on her face. When Ju Shinai heard this, his expression was slightly stunned, and immediately, he also looked in the direction of the Hokage building, HMPH. Sure enough, it was designed by that guy, and I said, in this period, how can people in the dark department be so idle? Quote. The current Konoha, because Yechen had just successfully rebelled, had not officially ascended to the position of Hokage, and on the surface, Konoha was still calm. But secretly, it is choppy. The 5 great ninja villages, as well as some forces, are secretly making small moves against Konoha. And in the face of these mice in the dark, it is naturally the dark part that is responsible. Merely, since there are many dark elites, all cultivated by Ape Flying Sun, these people dare not use it easily, and many people are under review. So, this leads to a shortage of manpower in the dark part. And in this dark department of insufficient manpower, Yushian actually has kung fu shopping, and she is obviously carefully dressed. And now there is a conflict with the samurai of the Daimyo. If you want to say that she was not ordered by Yechen, Ju Shinai will not believe it. That guy in the night morning is really getting more and more insidious, Ju Shinai said a little unpleasantly. There's no way around it, Uchiha Makoto said with understanding. Now he has a different identity, and there are many things, but they can't be solved by force alone. Quote. Do you want to go up and help? Looking at Ju Shinai asked. You think she needs help? Ju Shinai looked at the Yushian who was holding a short knife and looked at those Daimyo samurai with an expressionless face, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. 2. Makoto Uchiha smiled too. And at this time, the samurai who had cut off his arm by Yushian looked at Yushian in pain and roared, Give it to me, smelly bumble, I want her to live better than die, catch her for me. Quote. Hey, when the dozen samurai around heard this, they drew their katanas one by one, and they were about to cut towards Yushian. Stop. At this moment, a voice full of majesty reached everyone's ears. The crowd let go, and then the group slowly walked over. It's the Konoha garrison. Great, the Konoha garrison is here. The one who took the lead seems to be the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku. Quote. Yes, it's Uchiha Fugaku. It's really strange although most of the Konoha garrison is serving in the Uchiha clan, the patriarch of the Uchiha clan is also the captain of the Konoha garrison, but as the head of the clan, it seems that he just hangs almost does not lead the team, right? Yes, today is really strange. The patriarch of the Uchiha clan actually personally dispatched, which is strange. Quote. Oh, what's so strange about that? Patriarch Uchiha, the reason why he dispatched, I'm afraid that these guys are samurai of the Daimyo, and ordinary people won't deal with it, right? Quote. It's the same, no matter how you say it. These guys are all people from the Daimyo mansion, and if one doesn't handle it well, it's the internal contradiction of the entire fire country. The surrounding villagers, seeing this group, especially the serious-looking man who took the lead, all started talking about it. Because, the leading man was the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku. What are you doing? When the street kills people, don't you know that you are not allowed to fight and hurt people in Konoha village? Quote. Uchiha Fugaku brought about 20 members of the Uchiha clan to the front and back of those Daimyo samurai, looked at these dozen samurai expressionlessly, and said indifferently. Are you the patriarch of the Uchiha clan? The samurai whose arm was cut off in half, covered his broken arm, came to Uchiha Fugaku, and endured the pain and asked. I am, Uchiha Fugaku replied as he still looked at him expressionlessly. Good. The broken arm samurai nodded, and then, with a finger at Yushin, his eyes flashed with a cold light. I order you to take her down for me. This woman attacked the noble Daimyo samurai. I suspect that she is a traitor of another country. I will interrogate her properly. Quote. Wow. The surrounding Konoha villagers were immediately in an uproar when they heard the words of this broken arm samurai turning black and white upside down. Who at the scene did not know that these famous samurai, seeing that people were beautiful, wanted to rob the people and women, and they were also taught a lesson. Now it is too shameful to reverse black and white and say that people are traitors in other countries, right? Moment. The surrounding Konoha villagers looked at these Daimyo samurai with a little more disgust. Patriarch Fuyu, this is not about the girl in the people's family, it is these warriors of the Daimyo who want to rob the people's daughters, and in the end they are taught a lesson by the girls of the people. Yes, we can testify that it was the fault of these Daimyo samurai. Yes, the girls are shopping decently, these samurai see that people are beautiful, so they want to bring them back directly, these guys are too lawless. Patriarch Fugaku, you can't help outsiders bully our own people, each of these samurai has good things, just eat without giving money, forget it, and robbed us of money, and beat people. Yes, Patriarch Fugaku, if you want to catch it, you also want to catch these samurai, these guys are really bad. Among the surrounding villagers, one of them took the lead to speak for Yushin, and immediately after, everyone followed suit. Time. Everyone looked at the samurai of the Daimyo with disgust, and they all loudly accused these samurai. 8 Quacks Road. You guys, all shut up for me, otherwise all die. Quote. When the broken arm warrior heard the words of the surrounding villagers, he immediately became furious, and roared at the people around him. HMPH. Who do you want to die? This is Konoha, not your daimyo, come and take them all down for me. Quote. Come, take them all down for me. Uchiha Fugaku heard the roar of the broken arm warrior, and a smile flashed in his eyes, and then, with a wave of his big hand, he ordered the Uchiha clan who came with him. 8 Quacks Road. What do you want to do? We are samurai of the Daimyo, and by doing so, you are provoking the Daimyo. Quote. Seeing this, the warrior with a broken arm immediately roared angrily. And the surrounding dozen samurai all aimed their knives at Uchiha Fugaku and the others. Bang bang. However, in the face of the wolf-like Uchiha people, these samurai were simply not worth mentioning, and almost in an instant, all these samurai fell to the ground. Joke. The Sharingan of the Uchiha clan was given for nothing. Although these samurai also refined chakra, they fused chakra with sword art. However, facing the elite ninja of the Uchiha clan is also a matter of eyes. Soon, these dozen or so troublesome samurai, except for the samurai whose arm was cut off by Yazuki Shiin, all the Daimyo samurai were arrested. You. The samurai with a broken arm pointed at Uchiha Fugaku and the others, his face turned red with anger, he didn't expect that Uchiha Fugaku and the others actually dared to make a move on them. Just as he was about to intimidate and threaten Uchiha Fugaku, at this time. Bang! A loud bang sounded from not far from the street. Everyone looked in the direction of the loud noise. Rumble. Uchiha Fugaku heard these two loud noises in succession, his brows furrowed, and then he walked directly in the direction of the loud noise. Go check it out. Seeing this, several people from Jushinai followed one after another. The surrounding villagers of Konoha village, at this time, returned to their senses and followed behind Uchiha Fugaku. And the samurai with the broken arm saw that no one paid attention to him, his eyes flashed coldly, and while no one was paying attention, he hurriedly ran towards one. However, what he didn't know was that Yushin, who had never spoken, saw the corners of his mouth slightly raised after seeing the broken arm warrior leave, and muttered in a low voice, "Mission accomplished." Quote. Su. Saying that, Yushin disappeared in place. It didn't take a while. Uchiha Fugaku led people to the gate of a palatial building. And the signboard on this gate reads, Wanda Casino. How is this place? Could it be? Uchiha Fugaku glanced up at the casino signboard and muttered to himself. Rumble. Ah. Before Uchiha Fugaku entered the entertainment city, immediately after, there was another loud noise, and immediately, a figure flew out of the entertainment city, smashed directly on the opposite store signboard, and slowly slid down. Uchiha Fugaku, Jushinai and the others looked at the person who spat blood in his mouth, lay on the ground, pointed to the person in the entertainment city, and frowned again. Because, this guy who flew out of the entertainment city, just by dressing up, you can see that this is a samurai of the Daimyo. However, why did the samurai of this Daimyo fly out of the entertainment city? Could it be that there are other plans for Yechin? This is the guess of Uchiha Fugaku, Jushina and other insiders. Snap. At this moment, a crisp sound of footsteps came from far and near in the entertainment city. Jushinai, Uchiha Makoto, Uchiha Fugaku and others looked inside the entertainment city. Immediately, a blonde, tall mountain-shaking figure slowly walked out of the entertainment city with a frosty face. Tsunade, Tsunade-san, Tsunade-sama. Seeing the figure that came out of the entertainment city, everyone was stunned, and then exclaimed. Jushinai hurriedly stepped forward, looked at Tsunade, who had a frosty face, and then looked at the samurai who was sent flying, and asked suspiciously, Tsunade sister, you are? Tsunade glanced at the samurai who had fallen to the ground and had vomited blood to death, and snorted coldly. The samurai of the Daimyo were really getting worse and worse. Even the old lady dares to tease. It's really impatient to live, and... Tsunade suddenly looked in one direction. Will you guys manage Konoha? How to put all the cats and dogs in? If you can't do it, you will change people. Quote. Everyone followed Tsunade's gaze in unison and looked at a telephone pole. I saw this telephone pole, I don't know when a person appeared. Snap. The man from this telephone pole slowly fell to the ground, and said with a wry smile on his face, Tsunade, I can't be blamed for this. Who knew that those guys didn't have any eyesight, and they didn't even know Gangtiheim from the Fire Nation? Quote. Ji means princess in this world. Tsunade, on the other hand, is known as Princess Tsunade. This was given to Tsunade by the Daimyo of the Fire Nation during the reign of the original Hokage, in order to curry favor with the first generation. But I didn't expect that only a few decades have passed, and the identity of Princess Tsunade is useless. HMPH. Tsunade snorted coldly again when he heard Yechin's words, and his face became even colder. It seems that as Night Morning said, since Ape Flying Sun took office, the Daimyo mansion has really floated. Tsunade's eyes flashed with a cold light. Look at those cats and dogs, I don't want to see them in Konoha again. Tsunade glanced at Yechin, and then, pulled up Kushina and looked at Uchiha Makoto. Go, I'll show you the world. Quote. Saying that, Tsunade pulled Jushina and the others into the entertainment city. Sister Tsunade, this entertainment city, my door is clear, I used to be the manager here, so don't watch it. Less nonsense, you see, come with me, I have no money, you give some money, give me the chips to change. Ha, Tsunade-sama, you originally pulled your wallet. Quote. What wallet? Didn't you say, you used to be the manager here? Let them give you chips and rest assured, I'll win it back soon. Quote. Sister Tsunade, you generally say this, under normal circumstances, there is no return. Less nonsense. Seeing Jushinai being reluctantly pulled into the entertainment city by Tsunade, Yechin shook his head helplessly. It seems that Tsunade's work must be arranged. Yechin collected his thoughts, looked at Uchiha Fugaku, and said with a frosty face, bring all those dog things. Quote. I'll go, those guys from the Daimyo mansion are just brave enough that even Tsunade-sama dares to tease. Admire and admire. Hee hee, I also admire it very much, but this price is a bit big. But no, I don't even have a life, and the price is quite large. It's just the beginning. Didn't you see that Lord Yechen's face was so ugly? Those people in the Daimyo seem to be unlucky. Quote. Deserve it, these guys shouldn't let them step into Konoha Shinobi Village. At first, I still thought that the people from the Daimyo mansion were like divine messengers, but now it seems that this horse is all a group of things. Now there is a good show, Lord Yechen is angry, and those people from the famous mansion are all unlucky. Alas, Lord Yechen does this, I don't know if it's good or bad, they are all people from the Daimyo mansion. Listening to the discussion of the surrounding villagers, Yechen didn't pay attention to it, just stood there, waiting for the people from the Konoha garrison to bring people over. Yechen is indeed angry now. He had indeed calculated those people in the Daimyo mansion, but he didn't expect these guys to be so ignorant of life and death that they dared to tease Tsunade. The woman who dares to tease his night morning, then. He doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. Soon, hundreds of ninjas from the Konoha garrison, messengers from the Daimyo prefecture, and samurai from the Daimyo prefecture came. At the same time, dark parts with masks on their faces appeared around Yechen, maintaining order. Thousand Hands Night Morning, you. What do you want to do? Quote. The Daimyo messenger was escorted to Yechen, and his eyes were full of horror as he looked at Yechen. Just now, he was resting at the Wanda Hotel, when he suddenly broke into a group of ninjas, and couldn't help but arrest himself. He still hasn't figured out what's going on. Yechen ignored the Daimyo messenger and looked at the warriors indifferently. At this time, the originally lively Chinatown was silent at this time. Everyone's eyes were all focused on Yechen's body. Kill. Yechen slowly spit out a word, and there were demonic trials. Nope, you can't do this, you can't. When the Daimyo messenger heard this, his pupils shrank, his voice trembled, and he looked at the night morning. However, how could the people of the Konoha garrison listen to the words of the Daimyo messenger? After hearing Yechen's order, one by one, they drew their short knives and slashed at the necks of those samurai. Poof, poof, don't kill me, don't. Yaga ya-ro, we are samurai of the Daimyo, you are not qualified. Heads rolled to the ground, and headless corpses fell in pools of blood. Thump. When the Daimyo messenger saw this scene, a yellow liquid flowed from his crotch, and the whole person collapsed on the ground. The surrounding villagers looked at this scene with some fear. Only, just kill like that, so a samurai from the Daimyo prefecture was killed like that. It's going to break the sky. All the villagers who saw this scene had this passage in their minds. All the samurai of the Daimyo were killed by order of the night morning. This is a complete tear between the face and the Daimyo. Facing the wrath of the great fire country master, Konoha. Can it hold up? Night morning, what about this guy? To kill too. Uchiha Fugaku glanced at it with a hint of disgust on his face, and slumped on the ground, the Daimyo messenger who was frightened. No need. Yechen waved his hand, looked at the Daimyo messenger, and said in an indifferent tone, go back and bring a word to that Daimyo, just say that from now on in the country of fire, I will be in charge, get out. Quote. When the Daimyo messenger heard Yechen's words, he immediately came back to his senses, and then looked at Yechen with a shocked face. What is this for? Will he decide from now on in the land of fire? Is it to stage a coup d'etat? Konoha, going the other way around. Still not rolling, want to stay. Seeing this famous messenger in a daze, Yechen's eyes narrowed, and he said murderously. Yes, I'll get out, I'll roll. The Daimyo messenger struck a spirit, quickly got up, and stumbled towards the outside of Konoha village. Looking at the back of the Daimyo messenger leaving in embarrassment, and then thinking back to Yechen's words just now, the surrounding villagers could not calm down for a long time. Lord Knight, this is really going the other way around. Some are somewhat resistant. After all, that's a Daimyo. Oh, master of the entire Fire Nation. However, there are some expectations. If Yoshin really overthrew the Daimyo and became a Daimyo himself, wouldn't Konoha have taken off? Yechen looked at everyone's expressions, although there were some people's demeanors that made him not very satisfied, but overall it was not bad. Nodding slightly, Yechen left with Uchiha Fugaku. And those headless corpses were all taken away by the people of the Konoha garrison. Hokage building, Huge conference room. In the morning of the night, Uchiha Fugaku, Hinata Hiyashi, Nara Shikahisa and other Konoha's various ninja clan patriarchs, as well as Konoha's upper ninja gathered. At this time, even Tsunade, Kushina, and Makoto Uchiha, who were still in the entertainment city just now, were called over and sat next to Yechen. Above the first seat, Yi Chen saw that everyone was almost coming. He slowly got up and looked at everyone. And as Yechen got up, everyone stopped communicating, and one by one, they looked at Yechen. Everyone knows what happened just now, right? Yi Chen's eyes scanned everyone present, Li Yihao, and then slowly spoke. I won't say anything extraneous, I only have one meaning, that is. The land of fire, from now on there can only be one voice. And the owner of this voice, it's me, understand? Everyone heard Yi Chen's words, even those who had long known Yi Chen's ambitions, they were taken aback at this time. So fast, coming to the start, all right, my attitude has already shown that everyone around this, let's talk about the next arrangement. Seeing that no one dared to jump out and contradict him, Yechen nodded with satisfaction. Lord Yoruto, I think that the most important thing now is to hold the Hokage succession ceremony, as it is called, the name is justified, but Konoha has already torn his face with the Daimyo, then Konoha must have a leader level. Quote. As soon as Yechen's words fell, Nara Shikaku stood up and said respectfully. Yes, Lord Yechen, the Hokage ceremony cannot be postponed any longer. Shikaku is right, he has completely torn his face, then we Konoha must have Hokage to take the lead, otherwise we always feel that the name is not justified. HMPH. I was unhappy to see those people in the Daimyo earlier, and I used to go to the eastern capital to carry out tasks, and those nobles of the shogunate, all their eyes and noses were looking upward, and at that time I was thinking, why should the country of fire be entrusted to these ordinary people to manage? Quote. That's right, with the strength of our Konoha, we should have become the master of the fire nation, what Daimyo? Bah, I can pinch this waist with one hand. Quote. Hit it. Just let those proud noble lords see that this world belongs to ninjas. Quote. After Nara Shikahisa finished speaking, only those present dared to speak up. The people present were either the patriarchs of the ninja clan or the elite of Konoha. Although they had jealousies in their hearts about the Daimyo mansion, compared to Yi Chen becoming the true master of the Fire Nation, their interests, those fears had long been thrown away by them. Okay, then 5 days later, hold the Hokage succession ceremony. Quote. Yechen nodded and agreed neatly. Now he really needs to succeed Hokage to obtain Konoha's remaining luck. We killed so many people from the Daimyo. The Daimyo will definitely not be good. I am afraid that the Daimyo will directly transfer troops to attack. At this time, Uchiha Fugaku slowly got up, looked at Yechen, and said with a serious face, moreover, the troops sent will definitely not be less. Although most of those troops are ordinary people, there are too many of them, and if they gather their forces, I am afraid that they will cause us a lot of losses. Therefore, I propose to strike first, and we will now send troops directly to the eastern capital of the Fire Nation. Quote. Everyone in the conference room, hearing Uchiha Fugaku's words, all nodded. For those ordinary people who did not refine the chakra, the army formed, everyone present did not pay attention to it. However, although the army of the Daimyo were ordinary people, they were numerous after all. If they really fight, even if they are confident that they can win, the loss will be very large. As for Uchiha Fugaku's proposal, Yechen shook his head after pondering for a moment. Everyone shook their heads when they saw Yechen, all of them looked at each other with puzzled faces. Nara Shikaku even spoke up directly. Lord Yechen, we must take the Daimyo mansion as soon as possible. Because we have already broken the rules of the ninja world. Once the news of our complete tearing of faces with the Daimyo spread, the other Daimyo would definitely not be able to sit still. Shinobi villages in other countries, although not like Konoha in the past, respect the Daimyo like gods and obey orders. However, they were more than willing to destroy our Konoha. In other words, what we have to face next is not only the army of the Daimyo, but also the troops of various countries and the siege of other ninja villages. Quote. When everyone heard Nara Shikahisa's words, their faces changed drastically. They only thought about things within the Fire Nation, but they forgot. Ninja doing things to ordinary people in Daimyo is a violation of the rules of the ninja world. Once the news that Konoha and the Daimyo are completely torn apart, and even that there is going to be a war, reaches the ears of other Daimyo, it will really be as Nara Shikahisa said, Konoha will be the enemy of the world. The Fourth Ninja World War. This is a phrase that comes to the minds of everyone present. That's right, if such a situation continues, this war between Konoha and the Daimyo will definitely become the fuse of the four wars. Moreover, this Ninja World War is even more terrifying than the previous three Ninja World Wars. Because this great battle involved the interests of the Daimyo. I thought that this war would eventually evolve into the Fourth Ninja World War, and the scale was even more terrifying than the previous three. Everyone's backs were soaked. Immediately afterwards, these people looked at Yechen one after another and spoke. Yes, Lord Yechen, our war with the Daimyo must end as soon as possible, otherwise it will really be internal and external. Lord Yoshin, please allow us to lead the team to directly raid the Daimyo, and we promise to capture the Daimyo and all the shoguns in the shortest possible time. Alas, this is the Fourth Ninja World War, we can't waste troops here in the Daimyo mansion, we can't wait for them to gather troops. Fight, and must be fast, otherwise, CBCG Konoha will have to face the army of the Fire Nation, and the armies of other countries, as well as the ninja troops of those ninja villages. Just roughly calculate some of the numbers of those enemies, it is a little numb. This is a war between Konoha's life and death, and we must win this war, otherwise Konoha will cease to exist. The Fourth Ninja World War. The Fourth Ninja World War. This will definitely start the Fourth Ninja World War. Moreover, this big war will completely change the pattern of the ninja world. Yechen sat on the first seat, looking at the noisy scene like a vegetable market below, and he did not stop it. Because, the moment he wanted to start with the Daimyo, he knew that such a scene would happen. The Fourth Shinobi War. Yes, under such circumstances, this conference is probably the mobilization meeting of the Fourth Ninja War. But even if there is a fight, as long as he takes the Fire Country and obtains the luck of the entire Fire Country, he, fearless of all enemies in the world. Yechen, what the hell do you think? Jushinai leaned over to Yechen's side and asked softly. Tsunade and Makoto Uchiha both looked at Yoroharan. Yechen smiled faintly at the three women, and then looked at all the people below. It's all quiet. Crash. The indifferent voice of the night morning sounded in the conference room. Immediately, the scene that was originally noisy and like a vegetable market suddenly became quiet. Yechen slowly got up and looked at everyone. Everyone's eyes focused on Yechen. Everyone, please listen to me. Yechen's gaze swept over everyone. I have a dream. Dream that one day, there will be no more war in this world, the world can be peaceful, all people can understand each other, and live under one world. Dream of a day when people can strive for a common goal, instead of hating each other because of contradictions between countries. I dream that one day, all people in this world will have their old age dependent, their young will be supported, and there will be no more poverty and hunger in the world. I dream of one day. A semi-plagiarized article, I Have a Dream, by Yechen appeared in this world. Suddenly, everyone who heard these words was stunned one by one. What did they hear? Night dream. There is no more war for the old, no more poverty, no more hunger. Can such a dream really come true? Does that kind of world really exist? That night, I read a modified article, I Have a Dream, aloud. Yechen nodded with satisfaction, and at the same time regretted that he had watched too few speech videos of the fallen art student in his previous life, and had not gone to homework, otherwise, he could fool these people into lameness. However, the effect of the scene is not bad, and then flickering. Oh no, it should be encouragement. Gentlemen, the world needs me, and it needs you too. The time for great change has come, and we must believe that we will succeed and change this chaotic world. Will you be willing to sweep away this chaotic world with me in open peace for all generations? Quote. Hokage Building, Conference Room. After everyone listened to Yechen's words, the scene was quiet for a full minute. Immediately afterwards, everyone in the conference room stood up in unison, and one by one their faces were flushed and shouted. Dare not honor orders. The sound is so loud that it directly reaches the outside side. Yechen looked at everyone present with red faces and nodded with satisfaction, then. I now schedule tasks and everyone obeys orders. Quote. Yes, Nara Shikahisa is responsible for the coordination these days, the Hokage succession ceremony, and the logistical preparations for the Konoha War. Yechin looked at Nara dear for a long time and said slowly. Yes. Nara Shikahisa nodded in reply. Yechin nodded and looked at Hinata. Hinata, after the Hokage ceremony, you led a group of people to the border of the Wave Country in front to prevent the attack of the Mist-Hidden Village and the Water Country. Quote. Yes, Hinata Hiyashi replied. For the people who arranged for him to be a member of the Hyuga clan in the night morning, and guarded against the Mist-Hidden Village ahead, Hinata was very satisfied. Because, there is more water vapor and fog on the battlefield over there, which is very suitable for the white eyes of their Hyuga clan. Yi Chen's gaze looked at Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku, after the Hokage succession ceremony, you led a force to guard against the attack of Iwahide village in front of the country of grass. Quote. No problem, leave it to us, Uchiha Fugaku answered seriously, but there was some eagerness in his eyes. Since the ape flying sun came to power, their Uchiha clan is the most severely suppressed except for the Senju clan. In the past, their battlefield was either on the side of the country of water or the country of rain. And their Uchiha clan is best at fire and illusion. Therefore, in this place where the humidity is so heavy, it is not fully exerted at all, the power of their Uchiha clan. And now, Yechin has arranged them on the side of the dry earth country, just to play the specialty of their Uchiha clan. Tsunade. After arranging Hinata Hiyashi and Uchiha Fugaku, Yakin looked at Tsunade. Say it. Tsunade nodded solemnly. The current Konoha can be described as a time of life and death. And Yoshin is about to take the position of Hokage, and at the same time, he will also be her man. She would naturally do her best to help him and accomplish what he wanted to do. You lead a team to the border of the river country ahead to guard against the attacks of the Sand-Hidden Village and the Land of Wind. Okay, leave the country of wind to me, just right, and share another victory with that old woman. Tsunade nodded and said with some emotion in his expression. And the old woman she said is naturally Chiyo. In the previous World War II and the Third World War, Chiyo, as a master of poison in Tsunahide village, really brought a lot of trouble to Konoha. However, there is Chiyo, a master of poisoning, in Sand-Hidden village. And Konoha also has Tsunade, the medical saint. In the past 2 wars, these two can be said to have fought a match. Now, all these years have passed. It's time to meet old rivals again. How could Tsunade not miss it? You should be more careful, Yechin said as he looked at Tsunade and said with some unease. You know, it's verbose, I'm not a 3-year-old. Tsunade glanced at Yechin with dissatisfaction, but his heart was sweet. Yechin shook his head and looked at Jushina and Uchiha Makoto. Jushinai, Makoto, you guys go to the border of Uno country and guard against Union Village and Thunder country. Quote. No problem. When Jushinai heard this, she immediately jumped up excitedly, and then, she looked at Yechin with some hesitation and said, Yechin, or I can lead the team myself, Makoto won't have to go to the front, right? Quote. Jushina said this, but to suppress Uchiha Makoto. Instead, she is concerned about Makoto Uchiha. After all, everyone knew that the ninja villages of these countries were the most difficult to deal with in Union Village. Because, Union Village not only has 4 generations of super powerhouses like Lei Ying, but also 2 perfect people. If there is a real fight at that time, even if it is Jushinai herself, she does not dare to say that she can retreat with her whole body. When Uchiha Makoto heard Jushinai's words, she was suddenly a little anxious. She didn't want to be a vase, she had to fight alongside Yechin. However, she also knew that Jushinai was for her good, but she really wanted to go to the battlefield. However, before Uchiha Makoto could speak, Yechin was the first to look at Jushinai and smiled. Jushinai, don't underestimate Makoto. If Makoto goes all out, even if you turn on the 9 tails mode, you may be defeated. Quote. Saying that, Yechin also glanced meaningfully at Uchiha Makoto. Nani? Jushinai was taken aback when she heard this. Not only Jushinai, but everyone present was also taken aback when they heard Yi Chen's words. There are many people on the scene, all of whom have participated in 3 wars. For the strength of Union Village, they more or less knew a little. And Jushinai's strength was seen by them all during the Battle of Nirvana Valley, the Battle of Ape Flying Sun. It can be said that Jushinai's strength is one of the best in the entire Konoha. However, to say that Uchiha Makoto also has the same strength as Kushina, everyone can't believe it. Yechin, are you mistaken? How could Makoto? Shina returned to her senses, and then looked at Uchiha Makoto with a face full of disbelief, and finally, looked at Yechin Dao. How could it be wrong? What kind of woman am I not aware of? Yechin said, looked at Uchiha Makoto and winked, are you right? Makoto, quote. When Uchiha Makoto heard this, her pretty face turned red, and then, meeting everyone's gaze, she nodded slightly. Oh my god, how is this possible? Makoto, you lied to me in conjunction with Yechin, right? Shinai still can't believe it. Makoto, show them a hand. Yochiya didn't bother to say more, and simply said to Uchiha Makoto. Uchiha Makoto nodded gently, and then, facing everyone, his expression froze, open. Quote. Father. An aura erupted from Uchiha Makoto. Immediately afterwards, under everyone's shocked gaze, Uchiha Makoto's pitch-black eyes turned scarlet, and immediately, 3 gouge jade appeared in her pupils. After these 3 gouge jades appeared, they quickly rotated. In a flash, Makoto Uchiha's 3-hook jade chakra eye turns into a kaleidoscope pattern. This is the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. Uchiha Fugaku looked at Uchiha Makoto's chakra eyes, which turned into a kaleidoscope, and suddenly stood up in shock. He couldn't believe that Makoto Uchiha would awaken a kaleidoscope. Doesn't it mean that in order to awaken the kaleidoscope, you must see with your own eyes, or kill the closest people with your own hands? But Makoto Uchiha doesn't meet this requirement. Because, the closest people to Uchiha Makoto are her grandfather, and Yechin. But these two are alive and well, why can Uchiha Makoto still awaken the kaleidoscope? However, Uchiha Fugaku can be sure that Uchiha Makoto's eyes are absolutely kaleidoscopic. Because the terrifying pupil power contained in her eyes cannot deceive people. In the conference room, everyone was dumbfounded when they saw Makoto Uchiha's kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. The power of the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, they had seen it in the Battle of Nirvana Valley, and naturally knew how powerful it was. However, they also know the difficulty of kaleidoscopic chakra eye awakening. There are records and only the Uchiha brothers, Uchiha Fugaku, and the 4 Uchiha Shisui. And these 4 people in front of the eyes of the awakening kaleidoscope writing wheel, all of them have already broken through the existence of great fame. But now, a little girl who is not famous has actually opened the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, which is really an evil door. Suddenly, everyone's eyes shifted from Uchiha Makoto to Yechin. They just got a kaleidoscope of one person missing. That person is Yi Chen. 657. Yi Chen, as a member of the Thousand Hands clan, not only owns Mu Duan, but also has the kaleidoscope chakra eye of the Uchiha clan, which is originally a very incredible thing. And now, as a woman in the morning of the night, Makoto Uchiha is able to awaken the kaleidoscope chakra eye, as if. It's not something you can't accept, right? Night morning, it's you. Help Makoto. Shinai also looked at Yi Chen. She thought the same as everyone else, and also felt that the reason why Uchiha was able to open the kaleidoscope chakra eye in front was because of Yechin's help. After all, Yechin is obviously a person of the Thousand Hands clan, and they can all have kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. And Makoto, as a member of the Uchiha clan, is it not strange to open the kaleidoscope, right? Don't look at me, it's really not me who helped. Yechin smiled and waved his hand, looking at Uchiha Makoto with admiration. Makoto's kaleidoscope was awakened by herself. Quote. Originally, Yechin also planned to think of a way to let Uchiha Makoto awaken the kaleidoscope. But when Makoto Uchiha found him in the morning and asked him to see her kaleidoscope chakra eyes, Yokuchin was also stunned. Just like Uchiha Fugaku, Yechin couldn't understand what stimulated Uchiha Makoto to awaken the kaleidoscope without casualties. And when Uchiha Makoto said it a little embarrassed, he just didn't want to be a vase, he wanted to fight side by side with him, and unconsciously awaken the kaleidoscope. Yechin was completely speechless, and at the same time, he had to praise Uchiha Makoto, what a genius. Now believe in Makoto's power, right? Yechin looked at Shinai and said with a smile. Of course, Shina nodded, then walked over and hugged Makoto's arm, raised her chin slightly, and said, Makoto is my good sister, her strength, I never doubt. Quote. Yechin looked at Shinai speechlessly, shook his head slightly, and then, looked at all the people with a solemn face. The matter is so decided, all of you remember that your task is to defend, and you must not act without permission until my order arrives. Understand? Quote. Yes, everyone answered in unison. Seeing this, Yechin nodded, and then, he waved his big hand, it was so dispersed. Quote. Wait. At this time, Nara Shikaku hurriedly spoke up. Everyone looked at Nara Shikahisa. Luju, are you okay? The corners of Yechin's mouth rose slightly, and he looked at Nara Shikaku and asked. Lord Yechin, have you forgotten that there is another important matter that has not been announced? Narashika looked at Yechin speechlessly for a long time. Oh, is there anything else? Yechin asked knowingly. The Land of Fire, the great house of the Land of Fire. Nara Shikaku rubbed his brows. You have arranged the border of the Fire Country, but our first problem now is the revenge of the Daimyo Mansion, and you have not yet arranged how to deal with the invading enemies of the Daimyo Mansion. Quote. When everyone heard this, their faces changed. How could they forget the most important thing? Oh my god, I just went to shock Miss Makoto's strength, and I forgot that there was also the revenge of the Daimyo Mansion. Yes, just now, I felt as if I had forgotten something, and then I remembered that there were also enemies of the Daimyofu who had not arranged the arrangement. Quote. Alas, in the face of the arrangement of the four major powers, Konoha is already tired of coping, and I am afraid that Konoha does not have so many troops to deal with the Daimyo Mansion. Or do you want to carry out an assassination? As long as we slaughter the people of the Daimyofu, then the Daimyofu will definitely be in civil unrest, so we can also free our hands to deal with other countries. Quote. Nope. Half of our Konoha's finances come from the Daimyofu, and if we don't take the Daimyofu, we will simply be able to cope with the attacks of the four powers. After Nara Shikahisa's reminder, after everyone came back to their senses, they started talking about it one by one. And someone calculated the arrangement just made in the night morning. In the end, it was found that when all these people went to the border of the Fire Country, Konoha had no extra troops to deal with the daimyo's retaliation. Yi Chen looked at the noisy crowd, pressed his hand, and quieted everyone down. Immediately, looking at everyone, he slowly said, You guys just do what I just said, as for those guys from the Daimyo Mansion. Quote. Speaking of this, Yi Chen's face showed a look of disdain. It's just a chicken and a dog, I'm enough alone. Quote. Moment. The room was eerily quiet. What did Yechin just say? He wants to face the revenge of the Daimyofu alone. Everyone couldn't believe their ears. The army of the Daimyofu is almost all ordinary people. But as a great daimyo, he has also attracted many masters around. All right, even without mentioning those masters, the army of the Daimyofu alone exceeded 200,000. Hundreds of thousands of troops. Even if hundreds of thousands of pigs kill you, you will be exhausted to death, right? Everyone wanted to open their mouths to refute Yi Chen, but seeing Yi Chen's confident expression, and then thinking of the battle not long ago, everyone was silent. Because the Lord in front of you is not something that ordinary people can measure. This one can be said to be a combination between Uchiha and Senju. Where is the limit of his strength, no one knows. However, they had seen the thousand-handed Buddha that stood up to the heavens and the earth, as if it could destroy the world. If that thousand-handed Buddha attacks, it will be useless for many people, right? Everyone thought so. Okay, that's it, adjournment. Yechin waved his hand again and said to everyone. Yes, now that the meeting was heard in the morning, no one raised any objections. In the blink of an eye, 5 days passed. In these 5 days, everyone in the entire Konoha knew about Konoha and officially fell out with the Daimyofu. Also, there may be a war between the Daimyofu and Konoha. People who heard the news were initially a little panicked. Immediately, when they learned that Yakin would hold a Hokage succession ceremony today, becoming the 5th generation Hokage Empress. The hearts of everyone in Konoha settled down tightly. As for why, as soon as they heard that Yechin succeeded the Hokage, the hearts of these villagers calmed down. Well, if you are uneasy, you can go to Nirvana Valley and take a look. And these days Nirvana Valley can be described as overcrowded. Before the war, many people came here, wanting to feel the power of the night and morning and make themselves feel at ease. This morning, in front of the Hokage building, all the villagers of Konoha village gathered here. When the time came to 9 o'clock sharp, Yechin appeared on the roof of the Hokage building with the high-rise Konoha at this time. Coming, coming, Lord Yechin, they are coming. Are you going to start? From today onwards, Lord Yakin will be the 5th generation of Hokage. Quote. Konoha is led by Lord Yoshin, and it will definitely go to glory again. Quiet, all quiet, Lord Yechin is about to speak. ... Please. When everyone saw Yechin and the others on the Hokage building, they cheered one by one. And the moment Yechin raised his hand, the scene that was originally noisy and shouting instantly quieted down, and they looked up at Yechin one by one, their eyes full of awe. Villagers of Konoha, 1,000 hands and knights, from today onwards, he will bear the name of the 5 generations Hokage. Quote. Oh, Naruto-sama, Naruto-sama. Lord Yechin, Lord Yechin. The words of the night morning are very brief. And everyone below, after saying it that morning, cheered one by one. Yechin looked down at the cheering crowd below, the corners of his mouth rose slightly, and a smile appeared on his face. It's the taste of power. Being a Hokage has such a pleasant feeling. What if it is to become the master of the Fire Nation? It should be more cool, right? Ding. Congratulations to the host for becoming Konoha Hidden Village, the 5th generation Hokage, and getting all the luck of Konoha Village. Host current gas luck value, 1.1 million. Standing on the roof of the Hokage building, enjoying the pleasure of power, the voice of the system sounded in Yechin's mind. And when he heard the system's prompt tone, the smile on his face became a little thicker again. 1 million gas luck value has finally arrived. He already had some impatience to open the diamond pack. But the ceremony was not over yet, but he was in no hurry to do so. Yechin raised his hand, and in an instant, the scene returned to calm again. Everyone's eyes were all focused on Yechin. Yechin looked at everyone below, and the voice reached everyone's ears through chakra. Guys, you must already know that war is coming. I know that there are people in your hearts who are hesitant and some who are afraid. Yechin's eyes scanned everyone, and a pair of eyes shone like stars. However, fear cannot stop the war, fear cannot allow peace to come, only unification, only world unity can achieve peace. Yechin said this, his voice slightly muffled. I've been thinking about the question, why is the world constantly at war? From the dogfights of the Warring States period, to the current experience of World War I, World War II, World War III, and even possibly the upcoming 4 wars. When everyone heard Yechin's words, they also began to ponder. Many people on the scene have experienced war and know the cruelty of war. Thinking of the former relatives and friends, because of the scene when the war left, everyone's eyes were moist. Because there is no unified system in this world, there is no unified voice. Yechin's voice was a little high-pitched at this time. Now various countries have scraped the entire continent, and the people of each country are seeking resources for their own country, and finally they have launched wars. And what has the war brought us? Poverty, hunger, displacement, the old and the young. Quote. If, on this continent, there is only one country, and only one law, then the war will not continue. Peace will come. Quote. Therefore, we must raise the clarion call for unity, and this battle is not fought for me, but for our future, for our children and grandchildren. This war cannot be avoided, so this war must be fought until world unification, until there is no war, and until world peace is fought. Quote. Everything for world peace, everything for world unity. Fight. The voice of the night morning reached everyone's ears, and one by one, they were deafening and empowered. Maybe it was infected by the voice of the night morning, or it was awakened by the night morning that the blood chi for peace in the heart. Everyone shouted loudly at this time. For peace, for unification, war, war. For peace, for unification, war. Yechin looked at the cheering crowd below, and couldn't help but regret in his heart that he didn't go to the success course. He's really running out of words now. If he had the eloquence of a fallen art student, I am afraid that he would not have to fight, and he could directly take over the Fire Nation peacefully. After all, people in this world have not been bombarded with success. Even his poor speech, these people can be instigated. If those great gods come to this world, I am afraid that in the end, even the big Tube Wood family will be fooled into a dog, right? Yechin shook his head and encouraged all the villagers again, and after some encouragement, the Hokage succession ceremony ended. And when the Hokage succession ceremony is over, the entire Konoha's war machine begins to activate. According to Yuchin's prior arrangement, Kushina and Uchiha Makoto led 3,000 ninjas to the border of Kuni to guard against Union Village and the Land of Thunder. Ren Hiyashi led more than 800 Hyuga clansmen, as well as 2,000 ninjas of various families, and some civilian ninjas to the Land of Waves to guard against the Mist-Hidden Village and the Land of Water. Uchiha Fugaku and Tsunade led their teams to the borders of the Land of Earth and the Land of Wind. The whole of Konoha was shrouded in intense war mobilization. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.